chance to hear them. Let's try.
If you look at the diet of disease of the countries throughout the world who don't get the common diseases of Western culture, and when I say the common diseases, I mean diseases like atherosclerosis, diabetes, gallstones, bowel cancer, breast cancer, hemorrhoids, varicose veins, naviticular disease, huge pile of stuff. The countries who don't get these diseases have a diet with far more starch, far more fiber, far less fat, far less sugar, far less salt. And the two major things we need is to eat more fiber and less fat.
Okay, did you hear him use the word starch? Yeah. We used to call the food that I recommend starch. Potatoes, rice, corn. For those of you who don't know, I believe 70 to 90% of your diet should be starch. You heard Andrew Taylor, the potato guy. Hopefully you've gotten that theme, is what most of your food needs to be is starch. And Dr. Dennis Burkett told you about the common diseases. He didn't see colon cancer, heart disease. He told you. I remember his presentation, and the only slide I could really remember, and I tried to reproduce it, was this one. During that noontime conference in 1971. That's a slide where he showed in two frames. In one frame, he showed tiny rock-hard bowel movements and big hospitals. In contrast to countries and populations that have little hospitals, they have big bowel movements. Do you understand the connection? Well, let's try and listen to Dr. Dennis Burkett again.
Well, you see, I spent years recognizing that fiber related to bowel behavior, recognizing that in people who had adequate bowel behavior, they virtually never had a lot of our Western diseases. And I really copied the example of my friend Alec Walker in South Africa, who has looked at thousands of stools. But you see, now we know from the evidence available that the average American who isn't a vegetarian only passes about...
I rebuke all negativity. I rebuke all animosity. I rebuke all of the envy. And just shine his light on me. Say, I rebuke all of the envy.
Yes, welcome to Bless Radio. First, I want to give thanks and praise to the Most High. Give thanks for life. Give thanks to Bless Radio every single time. Give thanks for our ancestors, for their sacrifice, for their commitment, their love, and right is they weren't for our parents, we wouldn't be here right now. So that's why we give thanks for those who come before us. Give thanks for our grandparents, because if it weren't for our grandparents, our parents wouldn't be here. So we give thanks for those who made the sacrifice, our ancestors. So we must give thanks. Give thanks to Bless Radio. Give thanks to the fellow presenters and DJs on Bless Radio. Big up to Ragga D for a fantastic show. You know, excuse me, no, he does it already. He has a passion for the music. He has a passion for life, you know. And you can feel his passion when he plays his music. And he's again an ambassador of the reggae music, you know. And I see him like him and the brother there, what the brother name again? The one who run Channel 1 now. What's his name again now? Mikey, is it Mikey Dread? Yeah, Mikey Dread, who travels all over the world to push reggae music. Yeah, I spoke to him, was in, we don't know, some part of Spain, him go Israel, go all over the place. You know, I'm kind of surprised. You know, but he say, you have to do it, you have to push it, we have to push the reggae music. That's why Ragga D is very important, because he's got a passion for music, and also he's got a passion promoting up and coming young talent in the UK. So, you know, Ragga D is an unsung hero among us because he does a lot of work behind the scene. People not really aware of that. Again, big up to Bless Radio. So, we'll be reason. This is the Jammaster show. And we'll be reason. We have a brother who will be touching on a thing about martial arts. He's been doing it for a very long time. And we're going to touch on the other thing about martial arts. What made him get involved with martial arts? And what is martial arts? What is the martial arts? You know? So he'll be reason with us. And then also we are going to have Brother Vasco, hopefully the phone or you come down and touching a little bit about the event was taking place at Auntie G's Market at Chestnut Community Center. So Old Rose lead down there, and also Buzzy B's having a birthday party. you know about that, Ragga? This Saturday down Tottenham High Road. I'll give you the address for that in a second. See? So he's on a birthday party this Saturday coming. So lucky to Bless Radio.
On average, it takes, 15 years to turn into a cancer and another 15 to kill you. All right. You have to keep that in perspective as we do carry on our conversation.
So I'm just playing a recording where we're talking about the whole thing about
prostate cancer, colon
cancer.
Breast cancer.
See, because enough people, under this C cancer, every minute people are dropping out because of cancer. So we were touching on thing about cancer and prostate cancer, and also a little bit about mental health as well. See, we do have Kinsu, we'll be phoning a little bit later on. So again, you're lucky to the big one. Bless Radio.
If you get an injury, cut your hand, they can divide. But otherwise, they can't divide at their own free will. Otherwise, you'd be a misshapen lump in a matter of hours.
I'm a peacemaker.
Let's look at just for this demonstration, let's consider this a cell in the prostate or breast. So one cell stops obeying the rules. It becomes cancerous. A breast contains 100 billion cells. One breast. Two breasts. Okay. A prostate contains 100 billion cells. So you have one cell that becomes cancerous, and it starts dividing at its own free will. And the average dividing time is every 100 days. We know that. You can look at all this science if you're interested. We've known this since the 1950s. So after 3.5 months, you've got two cells in a breast containing 100 billion cells. Another 100 days later, you've got 4 cells in a breast that contains 100 billion cells. At a year, you've got 12 cells lurking in a breast that contains 100 billion cells. Now, at 2 years, you've got maybe 100 cells that are cancerous. And by that time, if it's really cancer, it's already leaked into the venous blood and it's spread to other parts of the body where it seeds in the brain, liver, lungs, etc. And it starts growing at a similar rate. Okay, let's go back to the breast or prostate. So you've got 100 cells in an organ that contains 100 billion cells. These divisions continue, and finally at 6 years of cancer, having cancer, at 6 years, you've got a tumor mass that's the size of a period on a paper. It's the size of a lead tip of a pencil. It contains 1 million cells. It's a millimeter in size. You've had cancer for 6 years. If it's truly cancer, it's already spread. But you can't find this. There's no way to find this anyway. So let's go back to the organ. The cancer continues to divide in the prostate or breast, and finally it gets to be a centimeter in size. That's the size of an eraser on a pencil. And now it becomes detectable. Now you can feel it in your breast, or your doctor can feel it on a rectal exam. Or if you get a PSA test, now it's big enough to elevate the PSA. It's after 10 years of development and 1 centimeter in size. That's what early detection is. It's late detection. 2/3 of the disease goes unnoticed by the patient or physician. And yet we're being sold techniques to find these little cancers, which really aren't little. They're big, and they're already destined, if they're destined to do bad things to people. However, you can't change the course. Let me add this to it. It's very important. It's in my February 2015 newsletter. Is now the American Cancer Society recognizes and tells doctors that if a patient has breast, colon, prostate cancer or melanoma or other kinds of cancer, if they change their diet, they will live longer. That's the official recommendation of the American Cancer Society. So I gave you this time lapse here of dividing every 100 days. Well, what if you can have the tumor divide every 800 days? What if you eat good? You slow it down. You perk up the immune system. You stop encouraging the cancer to grow, and you can change that doubling time. Then you die of breast cancer when you're 176. And by the way, I know this happens. I know you can change these doubling times by changing what you eat. You don't want your tumor dividing every 34 days. You want it dividing every 800 days. You follow this? Okay, now that I brought you up to what cancer is and how it grows, I want to get back to early detection. Let's just talk about colon cancer for a minute. We already talked about mammography at the introduction of H. Gilbert Welch. Let's just talk about colon cancer. There are various ways to screen. Remember, it's doctors going out to healthy people and looking at healthy people for disease and turning them into patients. There are various ways that you can do that. You can do it by checking the blood, checking the stool for blood in a couple of different ways. You can also check the stool for DNA. It's called a Cologuard test, and that checks for cancerous type DNA that's found in polyps or colon cancer. You can also do various scope procedures. You can do a sigmoid procedure, which is like a 2-foot tube that's put up your bottom, or you can do it with a 6-foot tube, which is called a colonoscopy, which can be put up your bottom. And you could do X-ray tests. We call them virtual colonoscopies. We used to do barium enema. So there are various ways that you can detect whether or not you have colon cancer. All right. I have recommended against colonoscopy, that 6-foot test, for a long time. Actually, August of 2010, I sent you all a newsletter. Well, interestingly, this year, the Canadian Task Force on Preventative Medicine told the Canadian citizens to stop getting colonoscopies. Yeah. You see what they say? They say, we recommend not using colonoscopy as a primary screening test for colorectal cancer. That's what the Canadian Preventative Task Force recommends. Why? Because it does more harm than good. I wrote you a big newsletter about this called Colonoscopy, a Gold Standard to Refuse. I sent it to you in 2010. But when I told people that, they do think about me a lot. They think, you're just being radical or crazy. And, why would somebody not want to find out if they have cancer in the breast or prostate or colon? This is just stupid thinking, McDougall. Well, except for the fact that looking for all this disease does a tremendous amount of harm. Especially when we don't have effective ways to treat it. And how in the world could we possibly treat it when early detection is finding something that's 10 years old and already spread? So here's the kind of test you can have. Here's your colon. You see the large intestine there in the darker red color. You can go to your doctor and you can have a 2-foot tube. We use flexible ones now. When I was doing them as a general practitioner, we used this silver sword. It was some of you may have had this done. I used to do it almost daily in my office 40 years ago. But now they do a flexible exam, which requires no anesthesia, real simple office procedure. And it checks the first 2 feet or the last 2 feet of the colon. Or you do a colonoscopy where they stick this tube. You see all the bends and turns they have to take? 6 foot long, they can study the whole intestinal tract, and you'd think that made a lot of sense to study the whole intestinal tract, but it's not what we find. What we find is just looking at the first 2 feet of the colon with a sigmoid exam is the only test or the only examination that will save patients' lives. Colonoscopy doesn't do any better. In fact, we'll get to that in a few minutes. So why, when you go to a doctor, are you always told to get a colonoscopy? When the Canadian Task Force says don't, when the scientific research says it doesn't work, why do all your doctors recommend this extensive test? Cash is king. We can screen you with checking your stool for blood, say do it every couple of years, for a test that costs $30 to $40. I can do a sigmoid exam on you as a doctor in my office without anesthesia for $200. Or I can take you to your local hospital or medical center, as the gastroenterologists do, and they can stick a 6-foot tube up your butt, give you a sedation or anesthesia, and then charge you $3,000. Yeah. Okay. Here, if you want to look at the absolute survivals, let me take a look at what I said here. If you see now what we're talking about is reducing the risk of dying of colon and rectal cancer. There's no reduction in overall mortality. It just changes how you die. So you can reduce the risk of dying of colon and rectal cancer. If you check the stool, you can decrease 2.7 per 1,000 deaths by doing colonoscopy. If you screen 1,000 people, you can save people from dying of colon rectal cancer, 2.7 people, or in other words, you have to screen 377 people to prevent one death from colon rectal cancer. I hope you're hearing me. I'm saying colon rectal cancer. Or you do a sigmoid and you have to screen 850 people. Now, read that sentence there. These numbers reflect a decreased risk of dying from colon cancer, but not from overall death. Nor does mammography, nor does PSA testing.
Yes. So we're just touching on the thing about cancer. And as I said before, that, I mean, a lot of people, you know, are struck by this, we call the C, you know, cancer. You know, it really is a killer. See, and, you know, a lot of this stuff can be avoided by just changing your lifestyle, you know, changing your diet, you know, just do basic things. You know, because every day I'm always hearing somebody getting struck by cancer. And there's so much information out there right now, you know, to take responsibility and reverse, you know, the health chance we have, you know. Because in this place here, there's so much stress. And we'll be talking about stress a little bit later on. We're going to have Brother Kinsu. We'll be talking about stress, see, and we're going to be talking about that. And, you know, stress is a killer, you know. And one of the events we'll be doing probably in March, I haven't got a date lined up yet, talking about mental health and stress. You know, the truth about mental health and stress, see. So as you know, we need to look after ourselves, you know, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we do have a brother who deal with the physical aspect as well as the and the mental aspect as well, and probably the spiritual aspect as well. See, because we can't leave none out, and he's a martial arts man, so he'll be reasoning with us very, very shortly. So again, you're locked into the big one, Bless Radio, and again, I want to big up to Raga, I want to big up to Russ Minty, Sister Amani, who's out in Manchester, pick up the status every single time. See? Yes, and Kinsu, pick up yourself every single time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a little bit more, and then we're going to go in some serious reasoning. So listen to the recording, take some notes, because this is life-saving information I'm sharing with you.
Nothing wrong. Say the next day, you're 60 years old, say the next day you start that cell proliferation. Then the cells proliferated into a polyp, which turns into cancer 15 years later. So now you're 75. And it takes another 15 years to kill you, and now you're 90. So at the most I can recommend, and I do recommend it, is for people to check their stool for blood every other year, say when they get to be about 60. After 75, don't. And have one sigmoid exam done at around age 60. But I had to tell you the general history of cancer so that you can understand why early detection is a misnomer. Why, you know, because you say to me, I know some of you are thinking, even though most of you are my friends, you're thinking, you know, McDougall must be crazy to tell people not to get mammograms or PSA tests or to do, you know, dangerous examinations like colonoscopy. I mean, what is this man thinking? Well, if you understand the natural history of the disease, then you understand, every doctor should know this. Every doctor, I mean, this is common knowledge. There's nothing questionable what I told you. But if you understand it, if you understand how this disease grows and progresses and so on, you understand that you must prevent cancer. You can't early detect it. You must not smoke. You must put good things in your colon. Because catching it early, which everybody'd like to have the easy way out. I don't want to change my diet. I don't want to quit smoking. I want you to catch it and treat it for me. Well, that would be great if it worked, but it doesn't. And if you don't know that, then you won't put the energy where you should put it. That's why I told you this. Yeah.
You're watching Blythe Natural Living. I'm your host, Blythe Metz. Today we are talking about cancer and how we already know many cures for cancer. So I want to tell you, everything that I'm about to tell you is not my opinion, nor is it theory. It is fact, and I encourage you to look it up on your own so that you can continue this study on your own. All right, this is a really big story. So every year in America, over 1 million new cancer diagnoses are made. Each patient will spend about $50,000 of their own money, that's not even including insurance, which is like a whole nother issue, to treat their cancer. So that adds up to about $50 billion annually just in America. I'm providing a context around what I'm about to tell you. Okay, so.
Okay then. So I said I'm playing the recording of the sister and the brother talking about everything about the truth about cancer, prostate cancer. As I said before, we need to take this thing as serious, right? And this kind of ties in because I guess, you know, he takes it very, very serious. I was just chatting with him, and in fact, he did mention that he does martial arts when I spoke to him some time ago, and I didn't know he was a serious man because I'm doing it for all over 25 years, 30 years, consistently. And the reason why he done martial art because obviously, you know, all the roads tough already out there, you know. Him just do it, protect himself, and you know, when he come back and find him get a bruise here and a knock here and there, and him say, well, I have to tough himself even more. And today is probably one of the best martial arts trainers out there today. You know, because again, you know, he's disciplined. He's quite interesting, you know, because someone just said to me that it's amazing how you can use your body as a weapon, you know, as a weapon, you know, mind, physically, spiritually, as a weapon, and this brother has a weapon upon him, you know. So we're not going too much introduction into the brother because we got to take about half an hour for just going to the man's history, see, right? And we do have Jammaster inside the house as well, and he probably ask some question and things. So we're gonna bounce in upon him, you know what I mean? We're gonna lick him some things upon him, you know, because this interview is gonna be one of the biggest interviews ever here, you know what I mean? Worldwide we are going, you know. In fact, Bridget just remind me that must let people know that if you want to go up on the YouTube, Bless Radio 1. Repeat myself, Bless Radio 1. So make enough people know, you know, we're all over the world. We're big, man. So anyway, Patrick, we're going some reason now. So thank you, brother.
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, Patrick, first, if to ask you now, brethren, or again this martial arts thing, because mine's a beach up and thing.
It's funny, like I heard what you were saying on the radio just now, and I didn't identify with the person you was. I don't know about me being the best of anything. I know that I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
I come in more like a third generation into this. I say first generation martial artists would be the ones who met the Asians as they first came over, and they're older than me. They're more mature. They're elders now. Yes, I'm in my 50s, and yes, I've been doing it a long time. But I've been learning from those elders.
From those elders, okay.
Yeah,
then.
and I don't compare.
Okay.
So you know, I wish I could actually take that high praise, but I'm gonna take it down a notch or two.
Take it down. All right, then. Well, you're modest man. You know what I mean? Humble. And that's what we were like. But tell me something. But two things. How do you give over the martial arts, and what kind of style you do anyway?
The style I do is Wing Chun, martial arts, and that's the one. That's my love. That's my passion. It's not the one I started with. I started with Kyokushinkai first. Then I did a little bit of judo, and then I went over to some jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And from that, I had an understanding of the actual politics involved in it. And what I liked about Wing Chun is that it was more about your brain than your body. And it was more about interacting with somebody than just trying to kick the crap out of them.
Right.
And that's where the passion came from myself anyway. And everybody I meet who does Wing Chun are more or less the same. It doesn't matter what colour you are, it doesn't matter height, what gender. From the moment you touch hands, you have an understanding. So Wing Chun's my passion.
Wing Chun's passion. So, what we're saying now, do you used to compete, in terms of, compete, competition and so forth?
It's funny that in the style of Wing Chun, they never believed in doing competition.
Yeah.
Mainly because the way that the style is and the way that we work, it found it very difficult to fight with your hands saddled. With most competitions, there's always something that you can't do. So when you start competitions, you can't hit to the face, you can't this, you can't that. And then you carry on from that point and you can't actually start hitting here and there. And as you get more proficient, more higher in the rankings, you can then start to do more things and be more deadly in what you do. Whereas with Wing Chun, they treat you, they ask you to express yourself from day one. So how do I express myself in a competition if you're going to tell me not to do X, Y, Z? So you'll find a lot of Wing Chun practitioners don't do competition for that reason. And the other reason is because, competition gives you a medal, and it's not about the medal.
Yeah, it's funny enough, right? I have a brother that does martial arts, right? Does it for years, right? And he said to me that, do you compete? He said, Doug, listen, man, it wasn't meant for that, to hurt somebody. And yes, the whole thing about self-defense and so forth, but it's thing where you want hurt a man. He says he's not into that. So he made it quite clear, he don't believe in competing and all that kind of stuff there. See? But yes, if you want to express your skills and your talent and so on, so yeah, but it's quite interesting. But so tell me something now, right? Where do you train and you're an instructor and so on so?
I call myself a senior student. So I have a Sifu who I train under, Sifu Dexter Kelly, and I've been training with him for more than 12 years now. I call myself a senior student, so I'm still a student of learning, and we train in Islington.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're in East London. We've always been in East London, and now I've sort of come aware, and my awareness is now asking questions, and this is why I'm here really, to ask certain questions about how we're actually learning what we're doing and what is it that we're doing it for, beyond the kick-ass. Because there's a lot of brothers out there that's never done martial arts and they're bad. They can kick ass, they can cause a man a problem. But when we look at the history of martial arts and look at it how it works for us as people of colour, we begin to realise that there's more to it than just going there to learn kick ass.
So what have you learned in terms of martial arts, in terms of the history of it, and what can you share and bring to the table?
Well, there's a lot we know about the ancient history of us as people of colour, and what we've contributed, going from the first two dynasties of China coming through, and we also know, we hear, and there's little talk about how we've contributed to how martial arts grow through time. We're here now, and first generation martial artists wasn't able to say anything because of the politics at the time. We're now 4th, 5th, 6th generation, and it's in us, it's in our DNA. So what I learned is that when you look at every discipline of martial arts, you'll see a person of colour performing it at a high level.
High level, yes, true.
And because it's in our DNA, maybe there's something more to it than just the kick-ass. We know there's the health benefits. We know there's the spirituality. We know that we also have our own African heritage. Fortunately, I've met this fantastic guy called Kofi. Seafood Kofi was able to show me where the bridge is between the two. Show me where our African heritage is that walks alongside the Asian martial art.
Okay.
And I started asking questions. So this is about putting it out there, asking questions about, well, why do we study martial arts beyond kick-ass? And how does it resonate for us as people of colour?
That's interesting, because one of the things I recognize or observe, and just talk to people who does martial arts, right? And they encourage to get young people involved in terms of self-discipline, And I remember I was going to this youth club, Stanley Road, and they had a martial arts class once a week. I can't remember what day of the week it was. It might have been a Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. And but one or two young people to go there, right? But more mature people to go there, right? But I noticed that over a few years, still, right, I find quite a few young people getting involved. But what it does for them is that self-discipline, right? And the reason why I'm saying that, because if you look at what's happened to the youth culture, and if I misrepresent information, I do stand to be corrected, but they're just wild. And if they're like something where they could channel energy into like martial arts, there'll be probably a calmer place, so to speak. I just want to bring it into the mix. What do you think? I think that we should encourage more of the young people to get involved in.
Well, maybe they just don't feel that it's for them. Maybe they
yeah.
feel that it's an Asian culture that doesn't resonate with who
With the
they
rest
are.
of them, okay.
And there are things that we do as a people of colour that's specific to ourselves and our health, and we don't know that it's actually there in it for us. Breathing techniques and such like to help us with our health, our spirituality, and that resonates with us as colour. That can still be walking alongside the discipline of the physicality in martial arts.
So, we talk about martial arts in terms of the spirituality, right? The spirituality. See, how does the martial arts help with the spirituality from your experience, from your mind? Yeah.
Well, there's a calmness that it brings to you in certain situations.
All right.
I know from my experience playing with my Sifu and Sifu Dexter that when we're in that moment, it's like an understanding that we have.
Dexter,
Dexter Kelly.
I know Dexter Kelly.
You know Dexter Kelly, yes.
Yeah, man, that's good. Just fill the name there, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I know he's been doing it here for a long time, yeah.
Yes, that's right. And at times, once I finish sparring with him for 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Seriously, sparring?
Sparring. Serious, brother. Sparring. Says, come on, Patrick, let's go. When I'm out there and I'm faced with any other problems, it's secondary. It's how hard can you be compared to that man? It's easy. I'll give you another example. We had 2 students who left and they went to Australia for a long while, and they decided to do a touring of Asia and Australia and that side. And they said that when they did some of the jobs, just to get by, some of the menial jobs that were really hard, and they had the person on the back saying, come on, you need to do more, you need to do more. And they'd be like, well, you're never going to be as hard working as Dexter, so this is easy. And it's nice to be able to have been pushed through that line.
Okay.
And know that, anything else that comes to you, you can take.
You can take it on. Okay then. And I know you do your, is it Islington you do your classes, you said? Is it Islington?
Yeah, we're in the Jeanstoke Community Centre in Islington, so we practice there. It's every Wednesday we do the junior students and then we do senior students on a different day. And the idea being it's like a really community spirit there. So we all practice together, we all do everything together. So I don't stand up there saying, give me 20. I'm doing 20 with you.
Okay then. And it's more of more of a family and a fun environment you're trying to create, and the objective really is to, you know, you need to question the martial arts, but it's the holistic thing really when you think about it.
Yeah, so there's two sides that I'm actually going to this at. There's what I practice on a weekly basis that I've been doing for years.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I'm looking to go into the community and raise this awareness and say, whether you, doesn't matter what you practice, you know, we can all talk. So the question is, what is it? Why are we doing this beyond the kick-ass? And how is it going to help us as a community, as a community of colour? It just so happens that Sifu Kofi does Wing Chun, but his knowledge is vast. I will be looking to interview others. I'll be doing interviews and putting them on YouTube and asking them these sort of questions.
So interview people do martial arts, yes? So
First generation martial arts who teach. For instance, there's another gentleman we know called Errol Lynch, and he does what's called Tweener, which is a form of Chinese massage. He's been doing martial arts since he was in school, and he's a very combat orientated person until he found this holistic way of giving health, which is Chinese massaging and Chinese medicinary, and he's very deep in it. And he'll be another one that I'll be going to interview, because he's now turned his whole life into that, and he's well known. They call him the Black Chinese Doctor.
Seriously?
Yeah, he goes to China and he teaches.
Okay then, I'd like to meet them on there, man. Yeah, I'd like to talk to them. So you'll be interviewing a lot of these those who do martial art, as you use the word kick ass, right? And ask them why you kick ass, or why. What
I'll be saying to them is, okay, you've been doing your martial arts for a very long time, and you obviously got to the point where you're teaching. Now you're talking about the holistic health side of things. How has that come about? How does that tie in with yourself as a person of colour and what you teach? What sort of things do you see? How do we react to this sort of holistic? What we know of the African health aspects, does it cross-connect? How did it resonate with you, martial arts? How did you get in the game? Why did you now turn to this?
Okay. So it's really about the individual as well, how they really get in the game, and what are they getting from it? Well, the question, what they really do with it. Yeah. I see.
You see, the thing is, we have elders that we all want to learn from, and we see elders being taped and videoed and history being put down for many different races, for many different things. But what we don't realise is that we have a good core amount of elders in the martial arts who've been doing it from since the 70s, the 60s, the 70s and the 80s, who have a great amount of knowledge, and it's not being recognised.
In fact, I can resonate what you're saying now, because I mean, now I can really dig what you're saying now, because there are a lot of people doing martial arts probably from the 60s, probably from the 50s, probably. You know what I mean? Where are they? You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Okay, where are they? And we like to know, that knowledge there, and what you're doing with it, and where's it taking you, and I can see where you're. We come from. What we're going to do now, we're going to have a very short break, and I'm going to bring in the great man, Jammaster, into the mix as well.
Integrative to conventional methods to combat cancer. Among them was NewsmaxHealth.com contributor Dr. Blaylock, who you also interviewed for your book Breakthrough. Tell us why you revisited Dr. Blaylock, and what insights did you feel that he would offer?
Well, Dr. Blaylock is one of the brightest minds in the country. He's an oncologist, neurosurgeon for 22 years. Stopped surgery because he said he was opening brain, seeing cancer so rare in younger and younger people that he decided he had to devote the rest of his life to research to the effects of chemicals on the human brain and body. So he's a neuroscientist, and I go to him for information all the time. And one of the things that Dr. Blaylock told me that is absolutely shocking, so much so that I've hardly mentioned on television because I'm being so attacked for having the audacity to say that there are ways other than chemotherapy to deal with cancer. But he said, if I were a woman, I would never have a mammogram. And I said, what? He said, if a woman starts at age 40 with no cancer and has a mammogram every year, by the time she's 50, she will have increased her chances of getting breast cancer by 33 1/3%. He said also, the act of smashing the breast the way we do with, like in a panini machine with a mammogram, he said, if you have a tumor in there, he said, that very process of smashing can break the tumor and metastasize the cancer. He said, I said, well, what do we do if we can't have mammograms? He said, first you have an ultrasound, you have a thermogram, if there's any hot spots, then you have an ultrasound, if there are any shadows, then you have an MRI. I said, well, we can't afford MRIs. He said, if the new gold standard became MRIs, he said, then they would be affordable. He said, because there's no radiation and you see a clearer picture in an MRI. He said, the cumulative effect of radiation from mammograms is actually giving women cancer, and no one wants us to.
I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26 years old. I was rushed into surgery. I was told I would need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy, but I refused chemotherapy, and instead I radically changed my diet and lifestyle. I basically overdosed on nutrition with tons of juicing and giant salads and fruit smoothies, tons of fruits and vegetables from the earth. Okay? So the first thing you need to understand about cancer is do not be afraid. Okay? Don't be afraid. I know you probably are afraid. You're probably terrified because you think you're dying, but you're not. Okay? Cancer is a very natural, normal process in the body. Everybody has cancer cells. We've all got them. The body is designed to recognize them and eliminate them when a cell mutates and becomes cancerous.
As we said, that plenty of cool know thing about cancer, and as brother said, we will go cancer cells in the body. We need to recognize it. And then, as I said, when there's a problem, there's a solution. Anyway, we have Jammers inside the house, and Jammers is true. Jammers, right? The brother is here. You know. Jam, you used to do martial arts? You used to beat up man and all them things? You used to do martial arts?
Yeah, I used to like do that.
You used to watch cinema and all them things there. And that's what
David Carradine or whatever the boy did, my master.
Oh yes, the kung fu.
The kung fu when they used to come on TV.
Yeah.
And the self-defense. Yeah. I like teach yourself martial arts. Was it in 30 days book, you know? I couldn't go to the island that long thing or go to the Shaolin Temple. So I think Bruce Tegner or something.
Okay.
Teach yourself martial arts in 30 days. You know, it's pretty cool as well.
But the man who bring martial arts, Bruce Lee.
Yeah, Bruce Lee. Then Bruce Lee came along. And then
Bruce Lee, yeah.
It's a whole different dynamic.
Whole different dynamic thing. All right then, Jammers. So, Jammers, you good though, yeah?
Yes, all good. Yes, you missed last week, you know. I felt like I was talking to myself, you know. So I was going like I was in a madhouse, you know. So good to have you back in the vicinity because you make it look easy, you know. So he said, let me try and think myself. And I'm like, what? You know, so good to have you back in the vicinity. All right. Yes, Patrick, man. So we've been, our paths have been crossing. You know, and we met up recently, and I just realised that he's doing physically what I'm attempting to do mentally. So this is what we need. Our community needs to know that, as usual, every time we see something, it comes from us in the first place. You know, that's what we have to realise. The reason why we don't bother pick things up, because we don't see the reality that everything that somebody else finds is a new science. We already knew it. So, you know, this is our things, so it's important to know that, as Patrick's going to tell you more than me, that this is not a martial arts. This is our culture. It's part of our culture. And every animal in existence, to get through the day, must have to fight. So it's not something it's not something that you're training for, to where a couple of men might come out of dark shadows. This is something you're supposed to use even when you're brushing your teeth. So, Patrick, without any further ado, because I know you're not a Jew, but you're going to give us what's due. So come in with something new, but when I mean new, I mean what we already knew. Patrick, introduce yourself.
Well, all right. As I said, been doing martial arts for more than 20 years now. I studied a few disciplines before going into Wing Chun, and that was my passion. And like everybody else, you go into it with thinking that you need to learn to defend yourself against the shadow that's going to come out of the wardrobe, like you have in your bedroom, right, Jammers? And you know, but what I'm here now is I'm asking a different question. I'm not trying to create ownership. I'm not trying to do anything in that sense. What I'm trying to do is just to create recognition and to make people aware that something that resonates with you, that you may not know why it resonates with you, is because you're woven into it. It's in your DNA, and you don't even know why it's in your DNA, but it's there. We're more than just people that can just run fast, for sure. And you'll find that there is people of colour performing at very high levels in all different types of martial arts. So the question I'm asking is, how can we bring this martial arts that we do into our own and tie it in with our Africanisms? And we can find the answers from our first generation people who did martial arts. I mean, when you were talking about, when you watched martial arts movies, David Carradine and such like?
Yeah, David Carradine, yeah.
You're late in the day, mate. You know, Crystal Fist. People who know martial arts will remember Crystal Fist and one-arm boxer.
Buddhist Fist and Drunken Master. Is that late?
Yeah, now, those were late night. And those were when martial arts first came.
Right, yeah.
Brother Dougie, you know that? Yeah? So, me and you, we came late to the game. And for those people who said, I love this, and they went into it, you'll find that there are still a few that are studying it still now, still doing it, and they know so much. And just like in the Asian culture where you had the master who had the one student, he taught everything. And then that one student decided, I've got no one worthy to learn everything my master's taught me. And he died. And all these things that he had has died with him. So that's what I'm here doing. I'm trying to raise awareness and ask the question.
Okay then.
On a different level, me almost died through watching them Kung Fu late at night. We went home and tried and practice it, and I almost get kicked through the upstairs window. And that's why you have to go to the right person, like Patrick, to know how to do the moves in the right way.
I hear you, James.
And then I did a little with Simon Lau.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I really kind of took it to another level.
Right.
When I done Simon Lau. And the sticky hands is when you find there's a higher science behind this thing. It's not just showing one fist in front of the other. It's activating your body's senses. You know, you can actually fight with your eyes closed.
Yeah. That's a fact.
So that's just a sample of what this is about. It's activating your physical self and your spiritual self, because you need a certain frame of mind to in this practice. You know, and it's a practice that once you've got this, you can apply it to, as I said, to even brushing the teeth. In a high level way.
Yeah, but let's just make sure that we understand you can get a discipline in any martial art. It's not just Wing Chun.
Right.
A discipline is to consistently do something at a high level and every day to try and peak. So whatever you do, now you guys, you come here every week on this radio station and you deliver. And every week you try to peak on what you deliver. And that's a discipline in itself. And that's a discipline that we are trying to instill into our young people. To have faith that it's there for you. There's something for you. You don't have to be despaired. You don't have to be despondent. You don't have to think. And maybe part of what we're seeing, all this violence, is that they're despondent and they don't feel they have. And I'm just suggesting one more thing that maybe a young person might resonate with and think, yeah, there's something in this for me. And if they're diligent and they're disciplined and they're consistent, then they will be the person sitting in the radio station right now talking.
Right. I want to just jump in and ask a question in terms of martial arts, where it comes from. Is it African, originally from Africa? I just want to... Yeah.
Right, well, I see myself as a conduit, so I'm not going to say...
What's the word conduit mean, sorry? Because with me, if you say a word, I'm going to have to ask you. Cause
I'm the person that delivers... I'm the go-between between A and C, so I'm the B. Okay? And I'm delivering... I'm not going to say I'm a messenger. So when you say where does martial arts come from, there are many stories about where it actually comes from. You know, if you were to actually say to you the first two dynasties in China was black men, I'm sure there's a lot of Chinese Asians out there who disagree with you, right? So I'm not going to say that I know all the answers in that sense. What I can say is that I know it's natural to me. And as David said, you trained with Simon Lau, and you found it was natural to you. So in that sense, when you say where does it come from, we must be in there somewhere at the beginning. Maybe not in the middle, and maybe not in the middle, but now where it's been delivered to us, we need to recognise it and weave ourselves back in. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'd just like to say, to back up this, I'll have to go more research, and I know Patrick's got someone who has more knowledge in this, and if you go to the show, it will be revealed. But if you in the ancient the hieroglyphs, you'll see some martial arts poses, and also with the yoga as well. The yoga poses, martial arts poses, and science. If you want to go to Western science, everything started from a certain source, and that source is the original source of the land that is now called Africa. It's the start of creation of most of sciences, and then man must know how to fight. You know what I mean? You're not going to tell me that even though it says a peaceful land, you must know how to fight. You know what I mean? And if they can invent everything, you know, I'm sure that part of that program was a fighting skill.
Just to rather than what Jam just saying, that what's the Brazilian style? What is it?
Capoeira.
Capoeira.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that comes from obviously that's an African style.
Yeah. So the story is that they came over from Africa and they were in the fields. And they wanted to learn a way of defending themselves, which funnily enough, sounds similar to Wing Chun. Okay. I'll tell you the similarities. All right, so they wanted to learn a way to defend themselves. So they decided to do it through dancing. And you had the slave master.
Sorry, Patrick, I want you to restart that from the start, because this is an important part of what you do, so it's going to lead on to what you do as well. So, start the story again. So everybody can fix the seat, get ready, take it in. Patrick, over to you. Start the story now.
I'm just going to give you just a small snippet. I think a capoeira person in there would give you a lot more. But what I understand of the history is that when they were brought over here as slaves, obviously they weren't allowed to practice war because slave masters wanted to keep them docile.
Okay.
That's why they separated everybody. If you spoke one language, you spoke the same, they'd separate you. We didn't have a similar language. We had to speak what they gave us. We know this in history. We know all the things that they tried to do to make us, bring us down. What did we do? As we are inventive. We find ways around problems, right? So they invented this way of doing dancing and practicing the martial arts. With any martial arts, you've got to keep fit, you've got to practice, and you've got to hone your skills. And through, when you see capoeira and all the leg movements and all that sort of thing, and they're playing to music, okay, it's deadly. They measured the kick of a capoeira as the most deadly kick above all others. That's how deadly it is, because of the way they swing their body into it, which says a lot, right? So that's how capoeira came about. And with that, they weaved into it a sense of community. So it wasn't just about the dancing. It just wasn't about the kick-ass. There was a sense of family in that as well, which is strange because Wing Chun was similar.
Right, now I want you to get to, because I'm interested in this personally as well, Wing Chun.
Right, they say there was a young lady who loved doing martial arts, but the father was like, behave yourself, come on, you got to do some work. And a monk used to come to the town, and in the Asian community, if a monk comes, they give him food and such like. And this monk was called Ning Moi. So one day, one of the king's guards came into the town, saw this young lady and said, I like you. You know, you're going to be my concubine. And she was 12, 13 at the time. And the father pleaded with her, look, she's too young. You can't take her. So he said, okay, look, I've got to go off and do some business for the king. And when I come back, I'm going to take her. So the father went to the monk and said, can you train my daughter to defend herself? Because this king's guard is going to come and take her. And I can't have my daughter. I love my daughter. So she said yes. Now, at the time, practicing martial arts was outlawed. So the monk had to think of a new way to train this young lady without them knowing. So they used to go down in a well. And they used to practice the close combat that Wing Chun practices. and she was said to have got this from seeing a snake and a crane fighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
She got it or the monk got it?
The monk got it.
Okay,
The monk got the idea of the system from
Yeah.
seeing a snake and a crane fighting, but they had to practice it down in the well. So that give and take energy that you have in Wing Chun is what they learned, because it was a close quarter fighting. And she then came out a few years later. She studied diligently. She was that. And when the actual King Guard came, she fought him within an inch of his life. She was that good. And she was well known then as a Ronin. So she used to travel around, and you would employ her to take your goods from A to B, so that when any thieves come, she would fight them off. And she got well known in the region. She would go to towns and sit down, and someone would challenge her, and she'd say, okay, well, you give me dinner, you give me this, you give me that. And then she'd beat them, and she'd get the dinner and get the drink.
Well, you're getting food for beating up
Yeah,
people. Wow.
but can you see the similarities where, again, oppressed, had to think of a new way round, you know, went into a well, and from that came this wonderful system. Can you see the similarities?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's a message to us, that we're in a well at the moment. You know, we're unwell. We're not even in a well. We're unwell. You know, so we need to find a way out. And my man has some of the answers. You know, so Patrick, so tell us about your now what you do.
Okay.
And how it relates to the whole concept of what you are trying to achieve.
I'm trying to communicate.
What you do first. What you do.
What do I do?
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the martial arts?
No, the martial arts, and now how you wanna, how you say the key after the the slogan that you've got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been practicing martial arts for a long time.
Your martial arts as well is more. You said it's more of a performance based.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see.
Explain
Sorry.
exactly your and then.
So when you look at the lineage of Wing Chun, there's a few flavors that came down, but the one that's famous is the Ip Chun flavor, or the Ip Man flavor. And you've probably seen the Ip Man movies. Sorry, with Donnie Yen, and he plays Ip Man, and that's the one that's popularized. But there are other flavors as well, and the one we do is called Opera House Wing Chun.
So what did Bruce Lee? Where was his style?
Bruce Lee did a little bit of
everything in it.
Yeah, he did a little bit of Wing Chun.
Yeah.
And then he realized, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
You know what he realized is, hold on a sec. This isn't the all and everything. And then that's when he became unpopular with the community of martial arts practitioners, because they were like, well, you do Wing Chun and you're Wing Chun. How can you do anything else? And he was like, well, it's not all and everything. And martial arts should evolve. And they were traditionalists. They wanted to keep it as it is, because that's where they earn their money. So you can only be a judo school and you pay your dues, and that's it, all you teach is judo. And he said, no, I'm not paying any dues. And I'm not only practicing one thing. So he studied boxing, fencing, and a few other styles as well, and created his style called Jeet Kune Do. But he was more of a philosophy again, wasn't he? Because he was free about how he practiced his martial arts.
Yeah, that's I think another thing important thing that people miss about the martial arts. There's a philosophy behind it. When the mindset of the people that practice, it's not just the punching, it's the mind behind the design. Even Muhammad Ali had that with his boxing. You know, there's a philosophical mind behind it. You know? And how the energy, they're analysing how the energy comes out of the body, how you can maximise your energy. They're actually scientists working with a real vehicle called the body.
Yeah.
Not scientists of theory, because they're working the hand speed moves at this miles per hour. I can punch like this if I do this amount of pressure, and then they know then they become a scientist of the body, because they know what parts of the body. Right. So they become a biologist and a scientist.
No, but from you said that you become a scientist of the body, then you know what you're talking about. No, yeah, I understand what you're saying. This, that's why it comes back to what the brother was saying. That I mean, there are so many practitioners
of different styles like that.
Of different styles, right? But the question is, what the brother is saying, right? Do you question what you're doing, or how you started from, and what's the purpose behind it? You see?
Otherwise,
so
you're just like a machine.
Just
There's no reasoning behind what you do. So, Patrick,
Yeah, we're not finished yet, but we're not finished yet. But so that's why we have to bring these giant masters together and interview them and ask the question: Is it what is the philosophy? What you're doing behind it? Am I right to say that, Patrick?
So we've got to the stage that you talked about Capri.
Capoeira.
Capoeira was where basically people were in a position, so they had to create something new.
Yeah.
You talked about Wing Chun,
Yeah.
how it was the snake and the crane, but because of the circumstances, something new had to be created.
Yeah.
You talked about how Wing Chun has developed to a certain form that was popularized. You talked about Bruce Lee, who practiced Wing Chun, but then he found it was fixed, and he wanted to diverse for it. So then he created his own style on it. So now we're at the point where you now, as a practitioner of Wing Chun, have now developed it to another level. So can you bring us into that now?
Okay, I wouldn't say I developed to another level, but what I would say is that this is how you learn. You first learn to destruct when you start, okay, like anybody. So you learn how to break down a body in certain ways. And from learning to destruct, you then learn how to construct. So if you have something wrong with your shoulder and you want me to massage it, I know how far I can bend that arm to stretch it but not break. And that's what you learn over time. And that's what I'm saying. There's the health benefits in martial arts that I'm sure that these elders would know that they should impart with us. When I'm teaching my students, obviously they have certain muscle aches and stuff. And I say to my students, once you finish training with someone, you're at a higher level, they're in pain, use what you know to relieve it. And so they learn to heal as well as harm. Because it should walk in unison. And I've been that way for maybe about 8 years now. And fortunately, Seafood Dexter's opened my eyes to that. And having met a couple of people, Seafood Kofi, and a few other people that I've met, I've realised that there's this question out there that's just bugging me big time. I can't help it. I have to say, we're people of colour and we have an art, but we don't practice the health aspects that we know. And if we was to actually research that, maybe that would resonate with our youngers more for them to practice that.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
Well, basically, even just sort of go by what you're saying, and just a practical example. If you notice a child, the first thing the child will do is rip something to pieces. Get a pen, write on the wall. If it had a chance, he would pull down the TV. So as a child, its curiosity breaks things down. When it becomes wiser, then the child has the ability to put things together. The same as Western science. They went into Egypt, took out the calculator, left the brain behind. So everything they're doing is of destruction. So we have to get back into, if we want to reclaim our culture, we've got to get back into our creative element. So the creative element now, as Patrick is telling us.
So what I'm doing is, I've got a moniker called What Next After Kick-Ass. So, you learn to kick ass, what's next? Where are you going with this? And I'm doing a series of interviews with all these first generation practitioners of different martial artists. I'm sure you've heard of oops. It's always been said to turn off your phone when you come on the radio, isn't it? I'm sure you've heard of Dr. Les. He's another one who's a great practitioner.
Oh, he does martial arts, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, wow, he's a great, wow, you've seen him move.
Yeah, I heard it. I remember one time he was going to talk, he said he'd done martial arts, all that stuff there,
Yeah.
So, but the martial arts, yeah?
Yes, but to actually interview him and ask him these kind of questions about how it resonates with him as a person of colour. How did he get into it? We know how he got into it, that sort of thing. But what's his history? What can we take from that? And what will the young learn from that when they see it? So I'm going under a moniker called What Next After Kick-Ass. And it's got a few different avenues it's going down. We have Sifu Kofi, who is going to be putting together seminars on African health in martial arts. And he's using the Wing Chun to deliver that health. He's doing a show at the end of this month already. He's already got dated with another one. in the 13th of February. So that's actually happening as we speak. And we're scheduling to have him with us on the 24th of February as well at our place. So that's happening as we speak. I've already done an interview with him. I've got to do another interview, docu-interview I call it, with Sifu Dexter, and talk to him about his history. I'm going to be getting in touch with Errol. I'm going to get in touch hopefully with Dr. Les, and he'll sit down and talk to me.
Okay then.
And I'm hoping that from this radio that, you know, people will not only be saying, well, this is a question I'd like to ask and know, but
so
they
are you
can
gonna
recommend.
Film it, and the person will have like a mini documentary, or is it ongoing?
Oh yes, we're going to be. So the first excerpt, so to speak, will be on YouTube within the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's ongoing. I see what you're saying. There's a brother. I don't know if you've heard of this brother called Ashamari. He's based over Chestnut. Does martial arts.
Does Tai Chi?
No, that's the other one. The one with Capoeira.
Capoeira?
Yeah, he started by Capoeira. Yeah, that's Capoeira.
Okay.
But in fact, there's a few of them over Chestnut do martial arts.
Oh.
Yeah. But he does martial arts more of a healing and teaching as well.
There you go.
Yeah. He does teach with the mathematics. There's a big science he does behind it all and stuff there. Yeah. And there's another brother down there, a nice brother, you know, I met him too, and his son's about 34, and in fact his son takes the class sometimes. So when I see his son, I say, well, I'm not at the class. And he looks at me, go, I'm not too sure. Yeah. You know, and thing. But yeah, because a few of them, a few martial arts.
And there's another gentleman that I know of over in Walthamstow, over that side, who actually went and studied at the monasteries, and he does Tai Chi. Very good practitioner, excellent practitioner, and again, would have started way back in the 60s and 70s. So would obviously be first gen.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few of them about, and we're lucky. We're living in an age where we can record this on platforms that live forever.
Well, I'm quite excited because I mean, something like this needs to, like I said, you need to get information out there and put it on. And I'm really impressed that it's going to go on YouTube now. So, ongoing project, and people can get the history and information. And like I said before, it's all about the healing as well. And as you were saying earlier on, once the young people can see the healing benefit from it, right, they're more likely to get more involved and take part.
Well, that's the hope. You know, I'm hoping if there's any young people out there, they're going to be listening and saying whether they find it of interest or not. But I know that from my nephews and nieces and their friends and so forth that I have this conversation with, they're very interested. And I think, you know, for a lot of young people, they're rudderless. And we need to give them a direction. Something that they can hold on to that says, you know, there is hope for you beyond the fact that you need to earn money. You know, we know you all want to look good, but there's more to life than that. And there's more to life. And you have to start looking at your health now as opposed to, you know, what our mothers and fathers had to do. They worked so hard for us. And look at them now. They're suffering with certain things that, you know, if they looked after themselves from younger, they'd be still with us, wouldn't they?
Okay then. So how many days a week do you train? Or do you train every day, 2 days a week?
I'm not a monk. I'm not going to tell you I'm a monk. I'm like any other human. I generally train between 3 to 5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's because I meet people who want to train with me or want to do something.
Okay.
So I give them my time.
Okay.
So, you know, in terms of the school itself, we train twice a week.
Oh, twice a week.
I know that with Sifu Dexter, if it was up to him, his wife wouldn't see him. And I'm sure he's laughing if he's listening to this now, because all on Christmas Day, he's phoning me to train.
Yeah?
I
know Dexter quite well. I remember Tuesday, religiously on a Tuesday, he used to train. Something he said he used to train in the dark and does some crazy things, man. I don't know what kind of buzz he's under.
You mean down in the community centre?
I don't know which part, because he used to come on the radio a couple of times, and on a Tuesday he would he's trained. There was some years ago though. He trained on a Tuesday, but I know that he takes his training seriously. You know,
Yeah,
takes his
yeah.
training very, very seriously. I know, but mind you, he's into health seriously as well. You know, I know he takes it. And fuck, Dexter. In fact, I need to speak to him because he does. He grow his own food, innit?
That's right.
Yeah.
He does a thing called Successful Plate. Is it
Yeah.
Successful Plate or something like that?
Yeah, I know. I know he was based at the Selby Centre.
Still there?
He's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in fact, we're talking about Dexter. Dexter, if you're listening, you have to come in on us, no, you know, Russ. Because everything start run, you know, Russ. You know what I mean? Dexter, you know what I mean?
Well, we'll be doing an interview with him on Monday.
Okay.
And, you know, we'll be asking him about his life and how he's got to where he's going and his beliefs and his understanding and how he understands the things that have been woven in. And he's a very deep brother. He knows.
Yeah, I know. It's very
from India, from
deep.
Africa, from UK. So I wouldn't say that I am a personal historian, but I'm hoping that I will be able to meet all these wonderful people to get it out there.
Get it out there, yeah.
And fortunately, I have got a very good team that records. Fortunately, all these things just happen to come in place now. And fortunately, I've just met David Jammers and he's given me a voice. And, you know, it just happens. It must be the right time. Must be.
Well, the timing is, you know, it's all about timing, and the time is just right now and thing, you know. So, but where's the future holds for you personally in terms of your personal goals and ambitious goals and etc. Because obviously we got good insight, and obviously you want to get this stuff out on YouTube and etc. But what's your plan for next 3, 5, 10 years time? What, you know, I just want to bring it to the mix.
Okay. Wing Chun is just a vehicle in which we're going to be able to achieve opening our own health centre.
Oh, so health centre, okay.
And what we're going to be able to do from there is to be able to practice certain, you know, different types of martial arts in that health centre. It's not just going to be Wing Chun. Fortunately, I've known this fantastic guy, Errol Lynch, like I said, and he knows Tweener, and he teaches students Tweener, so we will be able to have a surgery that we can direct people to get holistic therapy, and we're all going to be able to open up a cafe with a health shop.
Okay then, okay.
So the idea is that you're going to walk in through that door. If you want food, it's going to be good. If you have an injury, it's going to be good. If you need to be physically well, whether you're 5 or 50. At the moment I'm looking to put in a program called 50 and Fit.
50 and Fit.
50 and Fit.
That's interesting.
That's interesting, isn't it? So if you're approaching 50 or you're 50 or 50 and over, and you, most times there's a lot of people who've done martial arts, but if you've done a martial art before, you just want to be fit, and you don't necessarily want to go into that impactful martial art, but you want to practice something that's going to be challenging and will get you fit. That's what we do.
What's the other martial arts one? One's it's a bit more gentle. Most of the women get involved in that. What is it? Tai Chi?
The Tai Chi.
Tai Chi.
You got Tai Chi, and then you come down a bit, and you got yoga and a set. So, Tai Chi is a fantastic art in its own way. Yes, they say it's gentle because it's not so impactful like a judo or Kaikashinkai. And they practice measurement in the same way that we do, and they're saying that it's something like what they do in jiu-jitsu as well. So in that sense, yes, we will be doing Tai Chi. We will be doing Pilates. We will be doing Wing Chun. There is someone I know who does African yoga.
Yeah. Was it Imani?
That's right. So it's going to be a centre that's going to be able to look at us as a people of colour and deliver health for
Have you
us.
got a time frame when this centre will could be formed?
Yes, I want to be able to do it within the 14 to 24 months.
Okay.
I've got all the things in place that I think I would need to make it happen. Obviously, the only thing that I haven't got is funding.
Funding, okay.
Yeah, and so I will be looking to. When we open this centre, I don't want to do like our past history, which is we've got it open and we try to get it working when we're in there. No, I want to open with everything set and done so that we can give to our people of colour quality from day one.
Okay. What about the food side of stuff? Will you be looking at like nutrition and all that stuff there?
Definitely. Well, as you know, Dexter's very much into that area there, without a doubt. And we would be doing our food of colour in terms of the health aspects that it delivers. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the other foods, but I recently saw a video that pointed out that us as people of colour, we grew up eating, our ancestors grew up eating certain foods, and we've gone away from that. And it doesn't necessarily resonate with us, the fact that we've gone away from that. And why not get back to it?
But you know something, Patrick, I want to ride on that because that's a very interesting point you made there. A very interesting point. And you know is that I've made this observation that if you look at other race of people, it's like the Chinese and the Asians, Indian and so forth, right? And even telling people, that's man where they go on this planet here, right? They always bring their food.
Yeah.
They always have their food.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? I went to a few years ago I went to Barcelona. Right? Went to Barcelona. And I was with a couple people trying to get something, look at something to eat. I'm seeing a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? Chinese people they don't even speak Barcelona, they speak their own language, you know. You see what I don't matter where they go, right? They always bring their food. And the thing is that the reason why we got this health challenge, right? Again, we're not eating our own ancestors' food, so to speak.
Yeah.
Indigenous food. You know, that's what I really do believe that. Because everybody else, that's where they go, they bring their food.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
You say that. I mean, I'm very much into business and looking at the way business develops. And remember we had this recent influx of a lot of people from Europe, Polish and such like.
Yeah.
And the first thing you saw was Polish shops.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and they flooded to their Polish shops to get their
right.
food.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. In
at all.
fact, I encourage. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
You know, we as a people of colour need to recognise that we didn't eat Big Macs and hamburgers. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but you know, the foods that was natural to our ancestors is what we need to be
eating,
making available for us to edify us as people, to put back into us. And you're absolutely right. And we need to go and seek that in the same way that how can they have a shop in Wood Green High Road? I mean, it's supposed to be expensive, right? But you would not see, I've never seen in all the years Wood Green High Road's been popular, a West Indian grocery shop selling plantain yam,
whatever.
And you know, I think we need to, as a people of colour, make sure that we go get back to our foods. So yes, it will have that, definitely.
Yeah. The food thing is very important, you know, and I do believe that the reason why we're falling short of health challenges is down to our down to the food, you know. And obviously, there's certain things we need to take in our diet, and obviously Dexter is very much aware of that. Things like we need to be a lot more greens and fruits and veg, and we go on, and just keep it simple, you know, because they said that your food is your medicine, and the medicine should be your food, you know. So the food is very important, and etc. So as you growing up now, right? You know, fascinated with martial arts. Do you watch what's the word now? Looking for people on TV, certain artists, certain martial arts bands.
You mean David Carradine and Monkey Magic?
Yeah. Who's to follow? Who's your hero?
It's funny, right? I watched them all and I loved them all, but none of them was my hero per se.
Okay.
I never ever watched any of them and thought. The only person that rose my eyebrows, was when I watched Bruce Lee in The Game of Death, and Black Belt Jones.
the tar guy there.
Black Belt Jones came on, and he came on like, you know what? I've arrived. You know, he stood there like, I've arrived, all you guys bow. And he was so commanding in his presence. He didn't have to say anything. He commanded respect just by the way he stood up, right? And I thought to myself, you don't see that. It was just, he was the only black brother in the whole film, and he looked like a major character, didn't he? And that resonated with me so much. You know, at that time when that film came out, you had that blaxploitation type movies out there.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that didn't feel too comfortable.
I'd just like to add to that, and it goes back to who originated art. If you look at the most popular art form now that generates the most money, boxing, who's at the head of the game?
Well, Black Belt Jones was Black Belt Jones of what? Judo. And he was Black Belt Jones of Judo because he was one of the top. He beat everybody. And that's why he was recognised. Bruce Lee recognised him in that film. That's why he was there.
And as you said, he was the only black guy in Kung Fu, wasn't he, in those days?
No, he wasn't the only black guy in Kung Fu, but he was...
Seen on TV.
Yeah, he was uncompromising, I think's the word that I'm looking for. He knew he was good at what he did, and he wasn't about to bow to anybody. And I think that's what I get from him. And a lot of people will be fearful of that. But Bruce Lee recognised him and said, we need that guy in this film. And Hollywood didn't want him. Hollywood didn't want him there.
Really, yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah. As a major character that he was, he had too much presence.
Right.
He had too much presence, didn't he? When he stood there.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a lot of people.
What is presence? What do you say the scientific combination of presence? I mean, in relation to energy.
Okay.
That command of energy. What did you say is the dynamic behind it?
What's the dynamic behind it? It's the confidence and the belief in who you are. You don't have to think second guess yourself.
Sorry to cut you. What is confidence in relation to practical confidence? I'm not talking about theoretical confidence.
There's many ways to actually look at confidence, but okay, I'd look at it like this. Okay, you can walk into a room, and a lot of people there. You can walk into a room with a lot of people in there, and not feel that anybody's looking at you as a person. You don't have to feel uncomfortable. You can feel comfortable in your skin. Yeah, and someone comes and says something to you, and you can take it for what it is. If you feel that it's insulting, you can say it's insulting. And you don't have to be. You don't have to be aggressive in that manner.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, you don't have to be over assertive. You can just say, I find that insulting, and walk away.
Because also people might confuse confident with arrogant, and it's just there is a difference still, So yeah.
And that's how they saw Black Belt Jones in that film, as arrogant, and that's an interesting thing because I saw confidence.
So because we lost the live stream for a second, can you go back to saying what confidence is again? Exactly what you just said about walking into a room. That example, so we can give the live.
Okay, so you walk into a room full of people, and you're not walking there thinking that everybody's looking at you because you're the only black person in there. You're confident in your skin, and if somebody comes to you and says something, you can take it on the merit of what it is. You don't have to think to yourself, he's being insulting, but I can't say anything because I'm in here. No, you can say, I find that insulting, and walk away. There are people that are now
I'm saying there's a dynamic to that. And I'll just say from that dynamic, it's basically, because I think this is my personal interpretation.
Okay.
People are on this thing about confidence. Consciousness. Yeah? About you've got to be conscious. And I think the dynamic of what you've just said, you've got to learn when to switch off the consciousness. So that when somebody comes at you, you've switched off that doorway so that insult or that energy can get to you. Just like if you go into France and someone cuss you in French. That's no, So we have to switch off that, there's a Kentucky shop there. Switch off that and just block that energy out. So from what you were saying about you can walk in a room and you can switch off that button that says about, someone might think I'm a black person in there. So you can shut that down. You can walk in there. I'm just energy, and what anybody says, it's not that dynamic's just going to pass through me. Is that close to what you're saying, or you've got a different?
That's pretty close to it. That's pretty close to it.
I think this is what you're talking about is key, because a lot of people talk about confidence, and I've got a thing. People talk about it in theory, what you can think about it, but you can't apply it, because as martial arts, you're applying it in action. You know, so you're applying it in a battlefield. So when you're talking about confidence, people need to listen, because it's practical, not theoretical confidence we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, like you people can turn on that switch or turn it off. The problem with us, we're too conscious of everything, and we're taking it all the TV with the latest video thing. We're too conscious. As conscious people, we need to turn off that conscious switch. Get a rest. Let him sleep sometime first. Thank you. Over to you, John.
All right then. Yes, that's a different spin into things though. You're thinking about confidence and conscious and
Let me
so
ask you
forth.
something, Dougie, on confidence, right? When you meet someone of a different colour, their colour is irrelevant to you. And the way that they talk to you, that seems very much the case. Yeah? But we are put in a position where colour seems to be relevant to us in conversation. And that is where we don't feel we're at an equal. Whereas if we felt that we was at an equal, it wouldn't come into it.
Okay then.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah?
I see what you're saying.
So when I walk into a room, whether I don't care who's in there, I'm me. And it's irrelevant. And I have that confidence to be able to do that. And I suppose it's character. Martial arts builds character. You're put in a position to have to be able to perform.
And I'd just like to enlighten that part as well. The reason why we have this thing with colour is because it's a German thing. It was developed in Göttingen University. The reason why we've got a problem with colour now, because colour never came into the equation until 1733. King George set up this the University of Göttingen. They had a department of history, and it's in this department they would have found what it is. They brought science into history because they wanted to try and find a way that they could see how they could be superior, and they couldn't do it by wealth or knowledge or experience. So what they done in this university, they created the dynamic of trying to prove that they were superior through colour. So they created the term black, because check where the word black come from. They created the term Caucasian, and then they had their scientists now go into archaeology to get one of the brains behind. I think it's Johann. It's either Frederick Johann or Johann Frederick Blumenberg. His dynamic was that the blacks came from apes and were under the Greeks, so they went into the this is where the Charles Darwin came in. They was out to prove they were superior in that, so that they can assert their mentality of being the superior race. So in the universe of, check it out, Google it. There's not much information.
Can I ask you a question there?
Yeah.
When you said that they created the word black, are you saying that the idea of the colour of black wasn't around before that, or they attached that word to us as a people?
It was a term of it was a descriptive term, They put the negative spin on it as being something. It was just a colour like every other colour, but then they put a taint on the colour to associate it with something that is bad. It wasn't until that. Until then, it was just a descriptive colour. It used to be Niger or Swarthy or Niger was the term. It was related to it was a descriptive term. But then they changed the dynamic of it to a question of superiority, and then they pushed this program. It's in the movies, the films, the media, so that now we've got an association with that being a negative, where it was a university creation in the University of Göttingen. They also made the terms of they separated races by colour rather than just races being together. Also, like the Mongolian. Then they had another term for, I think, for the Indians. But there's 5 terminologies. I can bring that down next time. And they created, and then also in the religion. Then they went into the religion, and then they made superiority in the religion with the word Semitic that wasn't even in religion before. So then they separated it. They put these terms in the religion to prove superiority. Because if God's for everybody, how comes now there's a chosen people? You see, so that's where all that concept of the colour is a German thing. So that's why we have to let go of that feeling negative because of the colour, because you're following the German philosophy.
But hasn't that been sort of like something that we've been doing since the early 50s and 60s, where we've been owning the colour black? We own that now. You know, we don't. Yes, there's the black of midnight, and there's all this thing they say the black, but we don't associate the ownership of our colour black to that kind of talk.
Yeah, but
Isn't that sort of happened?
The problem with that is, it's okay in one aspect, but another aspect you're putting too much emphasis on a colour, and then you're forgetting about, 1 minute, you own the land, you own the language, you own the science, everything that they've done, this is ours. We just, like, if you've got a car, the most important part of the car is the seat, the engine, the steering wheel, the stat nav. The colour's the last thing on the car that's got any importance. So they've made us focus on the thing that it's there. You don't need to use that to do, because you've already got it. You see, so they've made us focus on the colour, just like they've made us focus on the Bible, and they've taken the wealth and the land. They focus on making a future for themselves. They focus on wealth, land, money, what are we doing for our future? Can we make our own toilet paper? Blah, blah, blah. They're focusing on physical forms to get access physical forms. We're focusing on a concept. They've made us think. And while you're thinking and looking up in the air, someone's come up on your foot and took away your bag.
I think that goes into what when we talk about the way that we can recycle things to our benefit.
Yeah.
And we have a natural way that we can work through life. Even though it tries to put us down, we have a way to get through. There's no recycling in Jamaica, is there? And I get what you're saying.
That's
I feel that we recycle.
Nature's a recycling device. So as I said, if you're moving with nature, then you're recycling. You're not making waste off, making forms that you can't, that doesn't work with nature. And as I said, this is, as we said 1 minute, there's a natural knowledge that's given out, and the people who haven't got the proper knowledge, they're causing the that's it. I'm getting back to the point you said. There's destruction and there's creation, and the childlike mind destroys everything. Where the mind of the mother, the female energy gives out. You know, and as because what we have to understand, when it comes to spirituality, it's not male and female, it's mother and child. There's the giver and the receiver. The mother gives out, and the child will hold on everything that it can get. There's no father figuring when it comes to spiritual. When it comes to spirituality, it's energy that's given out and energy that's received. So basically, if you want to go into something different, you got the female energy gives out, the male energy receives.
Okay. Okay. I understand that. I was supposed to say, give an example.
The mother is the first scientist. The mother will calculate to give out the food, and then also as a boy you're gonna go out the yard. Johnny, go put your shoes on. Did you do your homework? Yeah.
Because like everything, there's the masculine and the feminine energy. There's a principle go through all through nature. Masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
But just to ride on that, because like now we're talking about energy, right? Do you see the whole thing about the chakra being involved in that? Because if we're rising our energy or rising our chakra, and the objective is the crown chakra, and we operate from the beast chakra, so to speak, the lower chakra. How do we raise our? I'm just throwing it out, really, right? The reason, how do we raise our vibration?
Yeah, because our chakra, when you say vibration, I can work with it. So that's only because
it's the same thing.
I know it's the same thing. It's just when you say, because that's how we get an argument, because you use a term that I'm not familiar with the term.
Right.
Once we get the term right, that we're both familiar with. That's just a language teach. So basically, you're exactly right, because you've got magnetic and you've got electrical energy.
Yeah.
So when you're working from an energy of magnet, you're attracting things to you. So if your vibration is lowered, your magnetic energy is lowered to a certain level, then you're going to attract that energy. And as you said, we're on the carnal, we're on the lower level. That's why we're attracted to junk food, we're attracted to poison, no animal on the planet. You bring a cat to something, or a dog, and it will just turn. It will just won't even eat that food because it knows it's not. It won't drink that.
That's an interesting point. That I'm glad to see you bring that to the table. No, and you're absolutely right. I never thought about that.
So
in fact, Jam, just to support what you said there, right? There was something I was watching on TV, right? And it's a fact that a child, if you put a plate of junk food on the table, right? Right, the child won't eat that food, right? If you put some greens and fruits, everything, you're naturally just gravitate towards that.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, if you blindfold some people for over 30 days, right, and put a plate of food, they will naturally go for the veg and the greens, everything. Something with the taste buds and everything. Everything comes to the taste buds and everything. You see what I'm saying?
To back up what Dougie's saying.
Just jump in.
To back up what Dougie's saying in terms of health. Right. Children from babies to going into childhood, they naturally go for greens because they have it in their DNA that certain things are healthy, right?
Yeah.
And if you notice the power of advertising, one of the first thing a child learns to say, McDonald's.
Yes.
And if you have your child in front of the TV from the age of baby to child, that's the first thing he's going to learn. Yeah. And for some reason, he knows that in there is a hamburger. Yeah. And that's what he resonates to. Yeah. And it's amazing how we can indoctrinate or what's being indoctrinated into our children without even knowing. No. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Because from babies to child, they wouldn't eat that. But for some reason, they've seen the advertising that resonates with them. They've seen all the lights and everything, and hey, it's got to be good.
Yeah,
that's it. It's turned off the consciousness. Well, because one vibration is nature. You don't forget about consciousness or genius. It's just nature. Nature. True. If you know you're going to move to nature, so you're going to eat natural things. That's simple. It's as simple as that. If you go against nature, you lower your consciousness, and you're going to eat acid and poison. People look up in the sky, and try to do the things what this book says. So they're looking up in the sky, trying to do the right thing, not to be punished. Boy, if you don't look what you're doing with nature, nature's going to punish you even quicker. Drink acid, have some poison for the day. You see how fast you're going to get punished by nature. Rather than this book that you're looking up to, this Santa Claus to come down and punish.
See,
nature's your first teacher.
Yeah, I just want to ask Patrick a question in terms of the project, right? And way I see things with this, would there be like a documentary or in the near future? Because I could see a documentary come out.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm doing a series of, call it episodes. Yeah, the first one coming out pretty soon, and it will be 2 parts. I think the first part will be Seafood Kofi, and then I'm going to wait to see what the feedback is like. And then I'm going to go and do him again. So the first part will be Seafood Kofi. The second part is going to be second episode, so to speak, will be Dexter, and they're all going to appear on YouTube. They're all going to be about 30 minutes, 50 minutes in length. Yeah. And I'll leave the comments open and for people to comment. And the ones that I find, ask the most interesting questions, I'm going to write down, and we'll go back in there for part 2. So, when this will stop, I don't know. I mean, we might get 15, 20, 25, 30 different students of learning all over the world. I'll travel.
So, you got any events in the near future that you want to let us know about, or where can you be contacted as well? People want to get more information.
Okay, well, the name of my school is Mong Win Chun, and that name was created over 12 years ago. So MENG, Wing, WING, Chun, CHUN. We're going to be putting everything out through that. And one of the other things that you will be able to see if you're a social media person, is the hash.
Have you got social, where's your social media link if we want to get you on social media?
I'll give you that in a moment.
It's the hash, what next after Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Can you say that again? Because some people might have think we're talking football, so we just tune in. So just say that again.
What next after Kick-Ass? So under that moniker on a hashtag, you're going to see lots of information concerning who we've spoken to, concerning health benefits, concerning what directions it's going in, and a lot of what people are going to be asking and saying. So you'll be able to find us under mongwinchin.uk or .co.uk. And you'll also be able to find us under all the social medias like Instagram, Twitter and WhatsApp on a phone number, which is 07706 859 140. Okay?
Do that again, just in case people might run to
just
get
in
a pen.
case you're going to have to rush to get a pen and you're like me and the first pen you found isn't working and you're cussing right now, so you're thinking, let me go and find another pen, and all you can find is a piece of chalk on the floor. The phone number is 07706 859 140. And if you was to just put in Google Mong Winchin, MENGWINGCHUN, then you'll get all the answers, all the little social medias come up: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, our website, the phone numbers, and you'll go from there. Now, Kofi is doing something called Indigenous Wing Chun, and in that he's exploring the health benefits of martial arts within Wing Chun and teaching. So he's got an open, he's doing a talk show at the end of this month, totally sold out.
What day is that? Oh, it's sold out.
It's sold
already?
out. It's too late. You can't get on it.
Okay.
You know, it's sold out already. He's doing another. I've just seen him post another open. Another open interview date as well, or another open.
No.
And on that, he will be doing another seminar, and we hope to have him down with us. Now he's predominantly in South London, so a lot of the things he does is in South London. Yeah, Sifu Kofi. If you're interested in finding out about him, the word Sifu, S-I-F-U, and Kofi, K-O-F-I. And you'll find a lot about him there. And you can go and see what he's doing. And he also does art as well.
Who does art?
Yeah, he does some fantastic art. You know, African arts.
Okay.
Oil paintings, drawings, pastels, cards. Absolutely fantastic. I'm all about promoting our culture and what we do. So, you know, that will be how you can get in. And as I said, I'm hoping this talk we have will be first of many. And feedback, people, feedback. Come back to us and let us know what you think, and you know how we can develop this.
Right.
Just give out the number if anyone wants to call in now.
Yeah, you want to give a number?
The number to call if you'd like to call in and contribute or get some further information, improve your skills, is 079 444 313 66. Once again, 079 444 313 66. And I'll give it to you once again. Some of you have forgotten your pen, even though you need a pen. Or if you have, or use it, you can use your memory bank. Once again, is 079 444 313 66. This is a number to call or dial or text. Thank you.
Right. Just to say that also, if you just listen to the recording, you can catch us online. Bless Radio 1. I'll repeat that again. Bless Radio 1. So you catch us on YouTube, and you can hear the recording with the great man, Patrick.
Oh, thank you.
You know?
Thank you.
You know, as I said before, Patrick is a serious. See, the man, no ordinary man, you know. The man, you might feel the man just a thump wall and a thump after people, but the man have a holistic approach when it comes to the whole thing about martial arts, because martial arts is not a thing which is a physical thing. It is physical, but also it is spiritual. See? And this is what Patrick's bringing to the table. And the question is that, as Patrick was saying, is that you have someone doing the thing for 30, 40, 50 years probably, right? But the thing is that, what are you doing, right? You need to come back now and we need to be interviewed, right? And ask questions about how are you going to involve this martial art, and are you doing it in purpose of the health side of stuff? And this is what Patrick is trying to reason. And it's an organic thing. I just reason many people. Many people out there doing martial art. And Patrick, I feel real to man, because there's literally probably thousands and thousands of people do martial art, and probably instructors, and some man are black. We call it black dan. Is it kind of black dan?
Black belts.
No, after black belt, you have a next one.
Dan black belts. So
you have a next one after black belt. What's that one?
Well, you got black belt, then you get first dan, second dan, third dan.
Yes. Thanks for correcting me, Patrick. You have first dan and second dan, and there's thousands of them out there with that. You see what I'm saying? So it would be nice, Patrick, in the near future, have one big conference, you know what I mean? The big done them, you know what I mean?
What you find is that with the study of martial arts, what a lot of people are doing, when I want to talk to first generation, is people who teach. It's one thing to actually learn it and you sit down with it, but it's when you teach it that you really understand it. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I always say to my students. It's one thing to learn, but when you teach is when you understand it, because you've got to understand it to teach it, right? And that's when you get the deeper understanding. So you can imagine how much knowledge someone who's been doing it, first gen, and then taking it and has been teaching, and they must have tweaked it and changed it and, made some changes and over the years where they feel that it will benefit their students, and how is it still resonating with them as a person of colour from when they first got in, because we had all of that politics that was in martial arts when they first came, and all of that's gone now. I mean, we're fourth generation in now, aren't we? And a lot
what do you mean about the politics?
Well, if you was practicing Wing Chun in my area and I had the school, then I would come down to try and close your school because you're taking my students. And that's what the Sifu would tell the students to go and do. And there are many stories of one black brother going down to go and close down another black brother because his Asian teacher told him that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yes, and I can tell you that, and I can mention a couple of names.
You see that as well. That's good for. That's like the post-Cold War now.
You lot started it.
Yeah, it came from China, and then they just exported it to us. No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what they do in Asia. It's what they do to protect their livelihood and to show that they are the best. Because in Asia they wanted to train with the best, right? And so competition was rife, and that was how they actually did it. But nowadays we realise that thinking only brings a certain amount of lead that you can't argue with. So
I just want to jump in and ask about women. Is there like we've been interviewing some women? Is there a martial arts women group together? I just want to bring women perspective into it and stuff.
Well, as I said to you, Ning Moy and the young lady that she taught, they were both women.
Yeah. That's the one who started the whole thing with the
yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of the Wing Chun itself, is because it has a softness. The softer you are, the better you are. And I've seen a few women thrown around. There's a young lady that we both know.
I like you said that, the softer you are, the better you are.
There's a young lady that I remember I was training when I first started Wing Chun, and the teacher paired us together, and we were practicing, and she was giving me a hard time, a real hard time. I couldn't get round her or anything. Wherever I tried, and she had her eyes closed, and she was she was on me hard, and I was sweating hard, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I wouldn't like to meet this work lady in the street. And do you know who it was?
Who was it?
Judith Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, Jude, if you're out there listening, I remember you.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, to say it can work for anybody and everybody.
I understand she does martial arts quite seriously. I think she was competing at one stage. You know, she was, yeah.
She went into boxing.
Was it kickboxing?
I'm not sure if it was
Might have
kickboxing or just boxing, straight boxing. I think it was a little bit of the both.
Yeah, I think it might have been kickboxing. And then I think what is that? She was supposed to fight this particular. She was telling us this story. Supposed to fight this particular young, this young girl. She was a lot more young than her, right? And somebody said to her, "Take it easy upon her," right? And what is right? The guy got into her head, and that's when she said, "I can't do it no more." Because basically, said, you know, so he outside her out. You know what I mean? Yeah, just take it easy. She's only a young girl and everything. Yeah, but she was telling me, that.
It's amazing how, you know, you're thinking first someone can say something to you, and all of a sudden you're going to be second or third.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what happened to me. I was the best long distance runner in the school, and then I went to the actual national competition, and like the top people would be taken to represent Britain. And what happened? The guy above me, I went past, zoomed past, because I had this thing that I was always at the back. I didn't like running. So I was at my back trying to say, let me get this thing over. So I was running and then the teachers begged me to do this thing what I never wanted to do. And I was just long distance running.
Okay, then.
Yeah, I was just winning everything. Yeah. And then we came to the national championships, and then I must have, as usual, I was at the back. Then I just started to move through the crowd. I see the guy the year above me lying on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, "Come on, get up, man, get up." And he begged me not to finish in front of him. Yeah. So much so that I stayed behind him. And then I didn't get through to the top 6, and then that's what happened to me. I didn't do it. But up to now, I was the best long distance runner.
Well, let me get this right. You said that you was running, and the man was on the floor.
He's on the floor.
And he begged
me not to beat him. Begged me not to beat him because he's older. And I looked up to him. He's elder to me at them time. He had tears in his eyes. Seriously? And he didn't want the shame of going back to school to know that you know what I mean. So I stayed behind. Yeah, man. That's what happened.
Whoa.
I did long distance running as well in school, and they would, same like you, they'd put me up for whatever, and I was winning. And I remember I walked into the French class, doing French at the time in the school, and I sat down, and the woman who was German didn't want to teach me. There was 4 black kids at the back of the class, and we were all doing what we wanted to do. She didn't want to teach us, and then she insulted us, and one of them turned around and gave her the answer in French. So as to say to her, "You think we're not listening, but we are." And from that moment on, I realised, you want me to win for the school, but not for me. And I stopped.
Right,
I just didn't do it no more. I just stopped.
Yeah, that is powerful. Yeah. Okay, then what we're going to do now, we're going to go into a very short break because I know my bridge has been talking for...
I'm going to have to be leaving, so let me just make my leaving announcement.
Oh, okay then.
So Patrick, definitely you're going to be back on this show. We need more of this knowledge. Yeah, and yes, Dougie, good for you to be back here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
Once again, we if you just joined us late, we talked about martial arts, but we're looking at a different level, looking at it, reclaiming it as our own, incorporating back into our culture, where it originally come from. So as I said, you stay tuned with Patrick, and you want to give out your information once again quickly.
Okay, so we're at Mong Wing Chun, that's MENG, Wing, WING, chun.co.uk, and the social media phone number is 07706 859 140. So if you put that in Google or you put that phone number in your phone, you'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the social medias, and then you'll find out about our moniker that we're doing, which is What Next After Kick-Ass. Okay,
fantastic.
And hopefully you'll be able to hear all this information we did today.
Yeah, so that's it. So basically, every animal, we talked about every insect animal on the planet can defend itself. We've lost our science of defending ourselves. That's why now we want shoes or a car or to eat something to feel good. When you see now you can defend yourself against anything, you got the internal feeling. So that's what we're going to develop here. We talked about was the martial arts you brought into the Brazilian style again?
Yeah. What's it called again?
Capoeira. We talked about capoeira, how that fighting style developed. Develops out of through the slaves trying to disguise that they was developing the ability to arm themselves through their own physical natural self. Then we showed how Wing Chun also developed as that kind of science where they wasn't allowed to practice it, and then they developed the science. And this is the situation that we're in now. We're in that situation. We need to develop a skill to get out of this situation. So Patrick's got part of the solution. We've got the other part of the solution, and I know you've got the third part of the solution. 3 in a 1. We can build another pyramid for ourselves to point us in the right direction to rise up, because the pyramid points upwards anyway. So you're listening to me, and I'm just losing my voice. So it's my cue. Till next week, I will speak. Also, every Tuesday now, we're gonna have a reasoning session in North London it's a vegan restaurant called Vegalicious, and Tuesday from 6 o'clock in the evenings, you will catch me down there, and we're gonna have a new reasoning session every Tuesday down there, North London, and it's a vegan restaurant. So make sure you get down there. Thank you.
Okay then. So what we're going to do now, we have a very short break, and we continue the reasoning. I know we have a couple of people be phoning in. Patrick will be staying with us if he wants to, and we're going some more reasoning.
1 case of gallstones. Thank you. I never saw colon cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis. I saw 1 heart attack, and that was in a judge who trained in London and came back to Uganda and had a heart attack. He told me that. I was so excited, and he told me it was because of fiber. It was because of the fiber that was what he's focused on, but you all know that fiber only occurs in plants. So what he was talking about is the diet of the people of Uganda, which was a starch-based diet with fruits and vegetables, no dairy, and extremely little meat. That was back in the 50s and 60s. And I came home after that lecture, and I'm sure Mary remembers it. And I said, Mary, I heard this man talk about fiber, and I just want you to know, we're no longer eating white bread. We're going to have brown bread with our bacon and eggs. Yeah. But it opened my eyes. My eyes were opened. I could see finally that there was a cause of disease. Took my plantation years and then my going back to become an internal medicine specialist before I really got it. And studying after that, after I discovered the importance of diet and diseases, I told you a couple minutes ago, I wanted to know everything. But let me just give you a minute. The only interview ever done of Dr. Dennis Burkett I did. It's in my January 2013 newsletter. It's an hour-long interview. He has a Scottish brogue. He's a little hard to understand. But if we can get the chance to hear him, let's try.
If you look at the diet of the countries throughout the world who don't get the common diseases of Western culture, and when I say the common diseases, I mean diseases like atherosclerosis, diabetes, gallstones, bowel cancer, breast cancer, hemorrhoids, varicose veins, naviticular disease, huge pile of stuff. The countries who don't get these diseases have a diet with far more starch, far more fiber, far less fat, far less sugar, far less salt. And the 2 major things we need is to eat more fiber and less fat.
Okay, did you hear him use the word starch? Yeah. We used to call the food that I recommend starch. Potatoes, rice, corn. For those of you who don't know, I believe 70 to 90% of your diet should be starch. You heard Andrew Taylor, the potato guy. Hopefully you've gotten that theme, is what most of your food needs to be is starch. And Dr. Dennis Burkett told you about the common diseases. He didn't see colon cancer, heart disease. He told you. I remember his presentation, and the only slide I could really remember, and I tried to reproduce it, was this one. During that noontime conference in 1971. That's a slide where he showed in 2 frames. In one frame, he showed tiny rock-hard bowel movements and big hospitals. In contrast to countries and populations that have little hospitals, they have big bowel movements. Do you understand the connection? Well, let's try and listen to Dr. Dennis Burkett again.
Well, you see, I spent years recognizing that fiber related to bowel behavior, recognizing that in people who had adequate bowel behavior, they virtually never had a lot of our Western diseases. And I really copied the example of my friend Alec Walker in South Africa, who has looked at thousands of stools. But you see, now we know from the evidence available that the average American who isn't a vegetarian only passes about 80 to 130 grams of stool a day. In people and elderly people under 50, whereas in countries that don't get bowel cancer, breast cancer, gallstones, coronary heart disease, so on, they pass 3 to 500 grams of stool a day. And I think we are genetically, as it were, coded or made to get on with far more fiber than we take. And I think our relationship to, well, there was always causative relationship, but our relationship to a lot of our Western diseases is related to what I might call our national constipation.
Okay. All right, so far, based on what I learned from Dr. Winder and what I learned from Dr. Burkett, Dr. Dennis Burkett, it's obvious that colon cancer and colon diseases are caused by what we eat. I mean, that's enough. Don't you think that this experience, which occurred in the 1970s, should have transformed medical care over the last 40 years? But it hasn't. You will hear nothing about what you put in your colon in terms of your health. Just the way it is. Let's see, colon cancer. Let me tell you a little bit about how colon cancer works, and I'll tell you how cancer works and why what we do fails so much. When you put bad food, and bad food is a good enough description. When you put bad food into your intestines, it eventually ends up in your large intestine, the remnants after digestion. And these remnants of food that end up in the large intestine, they have carcinogenic properties. For a whole bunch of things that you can learn about, that I've written about and other people have written about, changing bowel flora, direct chemicals, etc. And these carcinogens, these substances, they irritate the colon wall. And the consequence of irritation of a mucosal surface, which is found like in the nose and the mouth and in the bowel and on the cervix, the consequence of chronic irritation on these mucosal surfaces is proliferation. If you irritate, say, the skin, which is a different kind of tissue, you get keratin production, calluses. Okay, that's the way the skin reacts. But the mucous membranes, they react by the cells proliferating. So we start out with these cells proliferating as a consequence of injury. And as you see the progression, they proliferate into small lumps, which we call small polyps. We call them polyps. And then they get into bigger polyps. It takes about 15 years of irritation for the colon to turn into a polyp big enough to be a colon cancer. It takes about 15 years. And then after it becomes a colon cancer, it goes into the bloodstream, the venous blood, the cancer cells. You don't even know you're sick. You know, you've got a little thing inside your colon, a little polyp that may be half an inch in size. And it becomes cancerous, and then the cancer cells go into your veins, and then they spread throughout the rest of your body. And it takes about another 15 years to kill you. So once you get that timeline, is on average it takes, 15 years to turn into a cancer and another 15 to kill you. All right, you have to keep that in perspective as we do carry on our conversation. So let's take a look at cancer in general: prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer. Cells get irritated, like breast cells and prostate cells and colon cells. And when they get irritated really bad, most of them die. But sometimes one doesn't die. It just gets irritated bad enough to stop obeying a basic rule of cells, which is you can't go divide at any time you want. See, cells are programmed so they divide when you grow from a little child into an adult. And cells are programmed to divide, say, if you get an injury, cut your hand, they can divide. But otherwise, they can't divide at their own free will. Otherwise, you'd be a misshapen lump in a matter of hours. Let's look at just for this demonstration, let's consider this a cell in the prostate or breast. So one cell stops obeying the rules. It becomes cancerous. A breast contains 100 billion cells. One breast. Two breasts. Okay. A prostate contains 100 billion cells. So you have one cell that becomes cancerous, and it starts dividing of its own free will. And the average dividing time is every 100 days. We know that. You can look at all this science if you're interested. We've known this since the 1950s. So after 3.5 months, you've got 2 cells in a breast containing 100 billion cells. Another 100 days later, you've got 4 cells in a breast that contains 100 billion cells. At a year, you've got 12 cells lurking in a breast that contains 100 billion cells. Now, at 2 years, you've got maybe 100 cells that are cancerous. And by that time, if it's really cancer, it's already leaked into the venous blood and it's spread to other parts of the body where it seeds in the brain, liver, lungs, etc. And it starts growing at a similar rate. Okay, let's go back to the breast or prostate. So you've got 100 cells in an organ that contains 100 billion cells. These divisions continue, and finally at 6 years of cancer, having cancer, at 6 years, you've got a tumor mass that's the size of a period on a paper. It's the size of a lead tip of a pencil. It contains 1 million cells. It's a millimeter in size. You've had cancer for 6 years. If it's truly cancer, it's already spread. But you can't find this. There's no way to find this anyway. So let's go back to the organ. The cancer continues to divide in the prostate or breast, and finally it gets to be a centimeter in size. That's the size of an eraser on a pencil. And now it becomes detectable. Now you can feel it in your breast, or your doctor can feel it on a rectal exam. Or if you get a PSA test, now it's big enough to elevate the PSA. It's after 10 years of development and 1 centimeter in size. That's what early detection is. It's late detection. 2/3 of the disease goes unnoticed by the patient or physician. And yet we're being sold techniques to find these little cancers, which really aren't little. They're big, and they're already destined, if they're destined to do bad things to people. However, you can change the course. Let me add this to it. It's very important. It's in my February 2015 newsletter. Is now the American Cancer Society recognizes and tells doctors that if a patient has breast, colon, or prostate cancer or melanoma or other kinds of cancer, if they change their diet, they will live longer. That's the official recommendation of the American Cancer Society. So I gave you this time lapse here of dividing every 100 days. Well, what if you can have the tumor divide every 800 days? What if you eat good, you slow it down, you perk up the immune system, you stop encouraging the cancer to grow, and you can change that doubling time. Then you die of breast cancer when you're 176. And by the way, I know this happens. I know you can change these doubling times by changing what you eat. You don't want your tumor dividing every 34 days. You want it dividing every 800 days. You follow this? Okay, now that I brought you up to what cancer is and how it grows, I want to get back to early detection. Let's just talk about colon cancer for a minute. We already talked about mammography at the introduction of H. Gilbert Welch. Let's just talk about colon cancer. There are various ways to screen. Remember, it's doctors going out to healthy people and looking at healthy people for disease and turning them into patients. There are various ways that you can do that. You can do it by checking the blood, checking the stool for blood in a couple of different ways. You can also check the stool for DNA. It's called a Cologuard test, and that checks for cancerous type DNA that's found in polyps or colon cancer. You can also do various scope procedures. You can do a sigmoid procedure, which is like a 2-foot tube that's put up your bottom. Or you can do it with a 6-foot tube, which is called a colonoscopy, which can be put up your bottom. And you can do X-ray tests. We call them virtual colonoscopies. We used to do barium enema. So there are various ways that you can detect whether or not you have colon cancer. All I have recommended against colonoscopy, that 6-foot test, for a long time. Actually, August of 2010, I sent you all a newsletter. Well, interestingly, this year, the Canadian Task Force on Preventative Medicine told the Canadian citizens to stop getting colonoscopies. Yeah. You see what they say? They say, we recommend not using colonoscopy as a primary screening test for colorectal cancer. That's what the Canadian Preventative Task Force recommends. Why? Because it does more harm than good. I wrote you a big newsletter about this called Colonoscopy, a Gold Standard to Refuse. I sent it to you in 2010. But when I told people that, they do think about me a lot. They think, you're just being radical or crazy. And, why would somebody not want to find out if they have cancer in the breast or prostate or colon? This is just stupid thinking, McDougall. Well, except for the fact that looking for all this disease does a tremendous amount of harm. Especially when we don't have effective ways to treat it. And how in the world could we possibly treat it when early detection is finding something that's 10 years old and already spread? So here's the kind of test you can have. Here's your colon. You see the large intestine there in the darker red color. You can go to your doctor and you can have a 2-foot tube. We use flexible ones now. When I was doing them as a general practitioner, we used this silver sword. It was some of you may have had this done. I used to do it almost daily in my office 40 years ago. But now they do a flexible exam, which requires no anesthesia, real simple office procedure. And it checks the first 2 feet or the last 2 feet of the colon. Or you do a colonoscopy where they stick this tube. You see all the bends and turns they have to take? 6 foot long, they can study the whole intestinal tract, and you'd think that made a lot of sense to study the whole intestinal tract, but it's not what we find. What we find is just looking at the first 2 feet of the colon with a sigmoid exam is the only test or the only examination that will save patients' lives. Colonoscopy doesn't do any better. In fact, we'll get to that in a few minutes. So why, when you go to a doctor, are you always told to get a colonoscopy? When the Canadian Task Force says don't, when the scientific research says it doesn't work, why do all your doctors recommend this extensive test? Cash is king. We can screen you with checking your stool for blood, say do it every couple of years, for a test that costs $30 to $40. I can do a sigmoid exam on you as a doctor in my office without anesthesia for $200. Or I can take you to your local hospital or medical center, as the gastroenterologists do, and they can stick a 6-foot tube up your butt, give you a sedation or anesthesia, and then charge you $3,000. Okay, here if you want to look at the absolute survival, let me take a look at what I said here. If you see now what we're talking about is reducing the risk of dying of colon and rectal cancer. There's no reduction in overall mortality. It just changes how you die. So you can reduce the risk of dying of colon and rectal cancer. If you check the stool, you can decrease 2.7 per 1,000 deaths by doing colonoscopy. If you screen 1,000 people, you can save people from dying of colon rectal cancer, 2.7 people, or in other words, you have to screen 377 people to prevent 1 death from colon rectal cancer. I hope you're hearing me. I'm saying colon rectal cancer. Or you do a sigmoid and you have to screen 850 people. Now, read that sentence there. These numbers reflect a decreased risk of dying from colon cancer, but not from overall death. Nor does mammography, nor does PSA testing. They just change your method of dying a little bit, tiny bit, not much. And the reason is, let's just get back to colon cancer, is because colonoscopy kills. Yeah, people die from perforation. I've known people, I bet you do. I bet if I sit and mention this to you for just a minute, you'll say, well, I had a friend perfectly healthy 40-year-old woman who was doing what was recommended to, prevent dying of colorectal cancer. And went into the medical center, had an anesthesia, perforation, which happens in 1 in 2,000 examinations. And about 40% of these people die. Yeah. Well, let me just say it another way. Screening, what screening is, when you ask to get screened, what the doctor, what the medical profession is asking you to do is to risk your life today for the theoretic possibility that you have less chance of dying of colorectal cancer 10, 20, or 30 years from now. Think about it. And I can make the same argument for mammography, similar argument, that it does a lot of harm. All right. So here's an article that came out in JAMA Internal Medicine, and it's a good one to read. You can read it for free. JAMA Internal Medicine is an open access journal. And they say fecal blood testing or colonoscopy, what is the best method for colorectal cancer screening? And in that article, they say, however, there is no randomized clinical trial or other high-quality evidence showing that colonoscopy reduces colorectal cancer mortality, not just overall mortality. Colonoscopy has not been shown to reduce even dying from colorectal cancer. And that, the only thing that's reduced the risk of dying of colorectal cancer is checking the blood or having one sigmoid done at age 60. Why do you start checking at age 60? Well, if you check earlier, you're screening a lot of people who are not going to have colon cancer. You may be saving a life, but look how much risk you're putting at people at. If you screen at age 60, if I check your colon, say by blood or a sigmoid exam, and I conclude that there's nothing wrong, say the next day, you're 60 years old, say the next day you start that cell proliferation. Then the cells proliferated into a polyp, which turns into cancer 15 years.
Yes, as you say, I was playing the recording. We were talking about the whole thing about the about cancer, about the colon cancer, etc. We're not going to stop beating the drum because, as we said earlier on, cancer is like it's I don't know what we say. I want to say a disease. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. You find that soon you reach a certain age, in your 50s upwards, prostate cancer, the men them, you got bowel cancer, seeing all kind of something just liquors. And this is where, we need to take responsibility. See? And it's quite interesting because Patrick was sharing me the thing about the colon cancer and the whole thing about the diaphragm and the chi and all that kind of stuff there. And you probably might share some. But you can tie in the whole thing about what Patrick was talking about, the martial arts and the link of the whole thing about health, because we look at martial arts, really, it's not a physical thing, right? It's a holistic, you're looking at mental health, right? You're looking at your breathing, you're looking at the holistic thing, meditation coming to the whole thing with martial arts. So it's a holistic approach to this thing. And this is what our beautiful brother Patrick wants to bring to the table, and what he'll be doing in the very near future. From now we're speaking about, he'll be interviewing people who've been in martial arts for so many years, for decades, and ask them from a health perspective and thing. Anyway, Patrick,
sir,
it's good to have you back with us again.
Thank you.
We're expecting a call at 8:30. A beautiful sister will be speaking with us. So I don't know if you want to comment about the recording, what we just played there.
Well, it was interesting. He was talking a lot about colon type related illnesses, and when you study martial arts from the Asian, they actually talk about chi and the energy, and a lot of it is about controlling what goes through your inner self, controlling the colon, breathing from nose right down. And when you talk about martial arts and all the health aspects of it, I always say that people who study martial arts, after a while, realise that to become a master, people think, well, that means you can jump over a building. You can kick down Broadwater Farm. You know what I mean? A master is someone that can walk into Tottenham Police Station and come out laughing with all the prisoners. Whereas a master is someone who's mastered self.
Say that again.
Okay.
As mastered.
He's mastered self. So you are knowledgeable about everything of self. The way that you think, the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way you understand you are in this universe. Your understanding of the health of what makes you tick. And you come to a point of where you've mastered self and you know you. And it's funny when you talk to people and they say that they're masters who've been practicing for a long time, and they smile and laugh because they realise it's really they've mastered self. They understand self. They understand what makes them tick and what can make them help or hurt. You know, where they feel that there's an injury that needs to be looked at. They're human like everybody else, and we all suffer from certain things, but they'll pick it up quicker, earlier, and try to deal with it better.
Deal with it better. Okay then. Well, Patrick, I want to focus the reason now, right, Brother Patrick, because last night there was a program talking about focus around young people. Yeah, and it's really about all the killing and the stabbing and such what's been happening. See, and I watched a good, probably about 20 minutes of it. Good 20 minutes of it. In fact, I was quite impressed with the contribution.
Regional TV that was, or on
it was. I think it was probably BBC.
BBC. Okay.
BBC or ITV. I'm not too sure which. You know, but everybody was talking about it, and I said to myself, I was at home and it's just I was flicking through the TV, and I said, oh, it's probably what I wanted to watch anyway. And the reason why I want to talk about it, because one thing we were saying earlier on, that martial arts can help young people, right, from discipline, and also from getting to know themselves, and from a holistic approach. And one of the things you were saying earlier on, that one of the objectives is to get more young people into, hopefully get more involved in martial arts. But I just want to say, how you look at the whole thing with martial arts with young people, and yeah, in terms of getting them more disciplined and so forth. Yeah.
Well, I think parents generally, we went through a cycle. So generally with myself and yourself and people that are older from us, you know, which I'm coming at this from a funny angle, but you'll find that people of our generation and older had a mother and father throughout our childhood. And then we went through a period from the generation of our age and younger where a lot of single parents. And a lot of mothers realised that the kids needed discipline. They needed that thing that the fathers were supposed to give them, but he's not around for whatever reason, or, you know, not getting into that. So they put their child into martial arts in the hope that the martial arts will give them the discipline, that they're looking for, that they knew that they had, and they're realising, well, you know, my child needs this because he's getting out of hand. So they're hoping for that seafood to give them that child that thing, and he's not. That's not his frame. That's not his makeup. So it's funny. I hear you saying about, you know, how would martial arts help them? Yes, it can help them 100%, but we need that commitment. And I know there's a lot of teachers out there who will say, yes, so true. We need that commitment from the mother to say, when the child says, oh, you know, I don't really want to go because he made me do 20 press-ups and I could only do 10 and I can't do 20. No, you're going. You're going. Because they need to be taught to be a bit more thick-skinned about life.
Right.
Yeah, life is hard. It's not easy.
Okay, we've got a live call in coming through here. Greetings.
I'm Carmen. Hello.
Greetings.
Hi, hey. I'm doing the phoning with you in a moment, so I'm going to be on hold. I'm probably on hold until Dougie's ready for me.
No, ready for you now, really. If you want to come in and make a contribution, yeah, just come in, because I don't know if you catch the reasoning, because we was talking about the whole thing about discipline and the whole thing about the mind and mental health and all that kind of stuff there. And the reason why I want you to come in, because I know you do a lot of work around health. And also bear in mind, we do have Vasco inside the house as well. Does a lot of work around health as well. We're mostly around prostate cancer and diabetes, but health in general. So, but I want you to ride on, because we was talking about young people, and one of the things we were saying that martial arts is one way in terms of getting more discipline, right? But also, what to me is very, very important, one thing we discussed last night, right? And if I was there, I would discuss was about food. Yeah?
Okay.
See, because, I mean, and the good thing Vasco is here, because if I've misrepresented information, he can correct me and probably give me a slap in my neck back. But one of the things is that we get to realize that amount of young people are gravitating towards this fast food place like the chicken and chips and so forth, right? And that again just messing them up, you know. But I want to get your spin on your thing about health and with young people and so on, so on, so on. I mean, and bear in mind we do have Patrick inside there, and also we have Fasco as well.
Okay. Well, good evening. Good evening, listeners.
Good evening.
I don't know if you've already said, my name's Carmen. I am a wellness coach. And what I certainly look at, and what I think we really need to be focusing on, is what is going on within the body and what is causing this. And something you've already said is we keep targeting, I suppose, children are the future, but we're saying the young ones, but it's everyone really. Just lifestyle today compared to that of our ancestors, say 50 years ago or even 100 years ago, we're so far removed from it anyway. And a lot of what's happening right now is that we're overfed, but we're undernourished. Or malnourished, should I say, because really what's happening is you're stuffed, but you're starving. We're eating all this convenience food. We're eating food, and the type of food that we're eating is either processed, man-made. It's food that we were never really designed to eat anyway, you know, because they're fake food. They're artificial, they got preservatives, they got colouring, they got flavours and all sorts going on with it. So certainly what's going on within the body is there's nutrients. There's so many nutrient deficiencies. Plus, we're overloaded with those toxins as well. And then if you're on a medication, the results of a suppressed or even an overloaded immune system is then further affected. And all of that going on within the body causes such a catastrophic effect with us being malnourished, not sick, you know. And to be sick is fine, you know, sick is a problem, but it's not actually the problem. We need to be looking at what are the problems that are causing these sicknesses, and it's really that the nutrient deficiencies, the overload with the toxins, I would certainly say.
Carmen, I wonder if I could just, sorry, Carmen, I wonder if I could just jump in here, because earlier on me and Patrick was reasoning about the food, and one of the things is quite clear to me that if you look at Chinese, Asians, you know, European people, that's man, where they go, they always bring their food. That's my worst part of the planet they are. They always bring for them food. You know, they bring their food, they bring their herbs and everything, right? And the thing is that, right, we are victims. Reason why we're victims, because we're eating other people's food, we're not benefiting us, you know? So, for example, we're eating, you know, McDonald's and all kind of bad food out there. See? And I'm just trying to say that, I mean, you know, we should be eating the food from our great parents and our ancestors, you know what I mean, where we're on this planet, and the herbs. Yeah,
Get that, you know. If you think about the food that we're eating today and the food that we were eating 50 years or 100 years ago, is so different. It's so different. Because everyone wants, you know, our lifestyle dictates everything to be quick, fast, in a hurry. We want it all now, don't we? We really need to be focusing on looking at how the earth was created. It was created for us. And really, we need to start thinking about natural forms, and those natural forms come from the earth, which is why we need to be going more, maybe down that organic plant-based fruit, vegetables and plants, because nature creates a problem, but nature's giving us a solution.
That's
but,
right.
You know,
yeah, we did mention that earlier on, yeah. But let me just jump in here, because as we're talking about young people now, right? And this is where the challenge is, right? What can we, well, it's $1 million question. I'll probably ask Patrick and probably Vasco to help me with this. But how can we get young people to start take their health more seriously, start eating, you know, organic food, and start eating more greens, and just, you know, because to me that's where the challenge really is, because the food is just messing them up, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly we need to be going down the path of education, educating them, leading by example. So this is where the woman is, in my opinion, you know, Brother Dougie, you might be the man of the house, you're the breadwinner, you're the head of the house, or any guys listening, they're the head of the house. But it takes a strong neck to support that house, to support that head. So what I'm trying to say there is that the woman, too, is the nutritionist in the home, because if the woman generally is sick in the house, then everything falls apart, everything's dysfunctional.
Right.
So really, the women are the nutritionists. It's not about whether I'm a nutritionist or not a nutritionist, whether I'm a wellness coach or not. It's each and every one of us need to be our best nutritionist, and we do that because then we can, because if we're sick, if I'm sick, then that, you know, or if the woman is sick in the house, like I say, washing doesn't get done, cooking doesn't get done, the kids go to school generally maybe not eating the right foods to go to school, and when by the time they get to school, maybe they've grabbed the chocolate bar or packet of crisps. By the time they get to school, that child is actually hungry, because they've had that sugar rush. You know, if you think about those drinks, I don't know, Red Pig or Red Bull or whatever that drink's called, it gives them wings and they go like, they feel like a bull, and then and then they have that sugar dip, and then they don't know what's happening, and then they almost disengage with team events, and they disengage with that. So then they become antisocial.
Yeah, but I just want to jump in.
You're not eating properly. You're not getting the right nutrients to have the energy to be a team player.
Because it's quite interesting. I want to say this point there quickly, because I got Patrick and Vasco here, right? Because they probably want to come in as well. But what was very eye opener for me, I was doing some work in this school down in it was in Wilsden. I can't remember the school now, right? It was me and another brother. And you know what's happened? You know what's interesting? After lunch, we used to go there after lunch, say about after 1. And we used to do like a lot of mentoring and get them to understand their goals and make them feel confident. We was working with some young black boys then, yeah? And we noticed that about 1 o'clock, right, after lunch, when they come in, say about 1 or whatever, they're so hyper. And we couldn't work out why they're so hyper. But it clicked to us, right? What it was, you know, in them school there, well, I don't know where, they have this tuck shop where they can get drinks, fizzy drinks, Coke, and because they was drinking the fizzy drink, they were so hyper, the sugar, right? And it took us a little while to work out what's happening. And it was a bit of a challenge, because we had to really calm them right down, you know? And you're right, it's the fizzy drink, what's in the Coke and the fizzy drink and such, what's in the school there, you see? And thing. So so we need to get rid of that part of that. Anyway, Patrick, Vasco, you want to
I wanted to ask a question. I thought at the moment, I mean, we're looking at the trend now seems to be going towards more healthy types of foods, trying to make sure that you eat stuff that are more organic. But how do you handle being able to feed your child with the right stuff, with the cost of these things? I mean, you can buy a processed plate of food for half the cost of an apple. How are you finding that parents are handling the economic side of trying to eat proper out there?
I can answer that question, but I will let Carmen in a second. Vasco, you want to comment upon us or what's been said here?
Yes, I'm very impressed with what Carmen has said so far.
Carmen, can you hear Vasco?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Very much on sound with this one. But remember, too, that the two greatest influences on a child's life are the home and the school. And what really surprises me is the fact that in schools, where children spend a lot of their time, they don't seem to have put nutrition on the curriculum. And you would think, you know, that would be the place where they'd be given lessons in healthy eating. It's not happening. Okay? And when those children come out of school, sometimes they go to homes where the home environment may not be ideal, in that you may have one parent who's struggling, who may be working, and so the quickest thing, as you said, Patrick, is to try and get something on the table, you know, immediately, and of course the cost of some of this stuff. Now, case in point, I use coconut oil every day, okay, and I used to get good quality cold pressed coconut oil for £5. Okay, I went back to my supplier, the shop, and I saw that the same coconut oil, within about a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, has now gone up to £7.99.
Oh, it's a big jump, man.
Well, that, you see, this is what's going to happen to food.
Yeah.
I've been saying to people all the time, make sure you have at least 3 months supply of food indoors, because food prices are going to go up quite dramatically. And a lot of stuff too that is masquerading as organic is not organic. And
that's right.
And even that non-organic food, yes, has gone up, rocketed in price. You go and try to buy an organic chicken compared to a non-organic chicken, and you see the difference. Now, an ordinary working family may not be able to supply that kind of food to their family, you know, over a long period of time. But having said that, there are still certain ways that young people can eat healthily without breaking the bank. Case in point, if a young boy has, or a young girl, has a proper bowl of porridge in the morning for breakfast.
That's my favourite.
With a banana, yes, a ripe banana thrown in. That is a very, very filling, healthy, alkalizing breakfast that will last them for a long period through the day. Okay? So they don't have to eat necessarily a lot at, you know, when they have the lunch. They may not even want to have lunch because that breakfast is so filling. And you shouldn't miss breakfast at all. Now, when it comes to lunchtime, a bottle of water or something like that, and they will be filled until they get back home. Now, a bit of sweet potato or a couple of plantains or something like that, extremely alkalizing, complex carbohydrates that will make you feel full for a long period of time. You know, people say that's too expensive, and I'm saying it's not necessarily expensive.
As a parent, I have to say, my daughter hates milk. She doesn't drink porridge, cereals at all, and she hates bananas. So you just mentioned 2 of the things that are like no-nos, and I'm probably going to be a bit of a devil's advocate here and come in like most parents. You are trying to battle with kids' desire to not eat certain things and try to stay healthily, and then stay in the budget as well.
Yeah. But shouldn't we be the educators in our home? Shouldn't we be the educators in our home?
But I think, with all respect, Patrick, from the time your daughter was small, if you had probably weaned her onto these types of healthy foods, you may have, I don't know how old she is, but you know, her taste buds would have been accustomed to porridge and other things like that. And of course, along the way, you explain to her why she's eating this type of food. I am also aware of the fact that there's a lot of peer pressure out there. And to be part of a group, you normally follow the norms laid down by that group. But one thing too we have to teach children is self-discipline. You are who you are. Explain to them early. Yes. Martial arts, you were talking about, that's a way of disciplining children. Meditation. Yes, I'm an advocate of meditation. That's another way to discipline children. But if children are taught certain basics from the time they're young, then I think we go a long way towards mitigating the problem as they get older. Because I see a lot of teenagers out there with, I call it the box culture. Yeah, a little box with fried chicken and chips. And even today I was talking about an article that appeared in one of the national newspapers in 2012, which said that all these young children who are eating from the box, yes, all the calories and chemicals that Carmen spoke about a few minutes ago, plus the additives, monosodium, glutamate, and heaven knows what else, they are building a case for Alzheimer's in about 15 to 20 years' time.
Right.
Now, can I come right in, please? Can I come right in on the back of that?
Come in, Alzheimer's.
Because recently, thank you, and it's a good lead-in from what you just said. One of the things is Alzheimer's. I recently did a presentation specifically on mental health, but I respect that I'm now speaking to an audience of men and women right now. So this applies to all of us anyway. And one of the things we need to recognize, just for 10 seconds on mental health, is that this article and this survey actually brought up to me, actually highlighted that every minute a man dies from suicide. That's a mental health issue right
say that
there.
again. That's very important. Say that again.
That every 1 minute,
Yeah.
a man dies from suicide.
From suicide.
Suicide. Yeah, this was a mental health monthly. This is why mental health matters, and it was a survey that was conducted, and they found 4 factors. But respectfully, I'm speaking to a mixed audience of men and women, but I have to highlight that because this topic that I was doing was specifically on mental health, and I looked into it and I clarified it and everything. But one thing that was very, very constant and very obvious is we need to recognize what the brain is made from, and what a high concentration of the brain is an essential fatty acid, one of the 2 essential fatty acids. One of them is a DHA, the other one is EPA. That DHA, excuse me for being geeky if I say it, but it's a docosahexaenoic acid. That can be found in an omega-3, and it's an omega-3 fatty acid. That is a key ingredient within the brain. So it's essential because of food, the body doesn't produce it. So if your body doesn't produce it, we need to be getting it from food sources. So if we're in that box culture and we're not getting fish, or we're not getting that essential fatty acid from our food, which clearly is the case because we're so far removed from how we used to eat anyway, as hunters and gatherers, catching fish and killing animals and stuff. So the point is, the brain, that brain matter is slowly decreasing, and then that's why, as one progresses in life, generate 10 years, 15 years, and whatever, you've been eating that way for the last 20 or 30 years. Why in the 40th year, boom, you start becoming absent-minded, forgetful. Another 10 years on from that, you're now 50, 60, and you wonder why you're in the early stages of dementia. Again, that's because you have to look at, it doesn't happen suddenly. It's a progressive matter. It's progressive. So going back to what we're eating and that mental matter, mental health thing, and when often if it's happening in teenagers, when their raging hormones are going and they don't know why they're feeling this way, high to low sugar, high sugar lows, and all these mood swings they're getting, and all of this, that's a frustration, which is often then vented the wrong way. Whereas if you're doing some form of sport, you can almost channel it in the discipline that you engage within. Does that make sense?
No, makes perfect sense, because you've kind of educated me the thing about the suicide. Every minute they commit suicide. Okay, that's quite.
Every 60 seconds.
Every 60 seconds.
Yeah, correct. Every 60 seconds. Even whilst we've been online, people suffer so much in silence. This mental health is so invisible.
Well, it's quite interesting because in March. I don't know when in March though, but I will be doing a seminar or an event around everything about mental health. You know, just and I'll probably do a few of them. You know, course of the year as well, because I think that's something we need to talk about anyway. Bring to the table. I know it took bring to the table and see how we can address because you know.
It's a big topic.
It's a big topic, and we need to talk about it. Sometimes talking about it is healing as well, and see how we can put people in support groups and support people in that. Yeah. So, I was going to say to you now, in terms of way forward, right? In terms of solution, and you know, we're just talking in terms of with. I think you did say that really. You did say because I did ask the way forward. You said that. And I think Vasco did say that we need to be in control of the home environment. We're talking about children and the school, yeah. And like Vasco said that you know there should be right curriculum deal with nutrition in the school, see, and at home you know you got to you know especially if you got a bit of information and knowledge about health and nutrition, you got to take control. You just got to take control. You know what I mean? And to me, that's the way forward.
Well, within the schools, they could do it within sports within the sport curriculum, can't they? They should maybe sit them down and you know because yeah.
Well, there's no excuse. I mean, Vasco made it quite clear. There should be no excuse because I mean, one of the things is that. We can see that poor health produces poor results, knowing that he creates some kind of crazy pitting them out the road, chewing them out the road. Sorry, Vasco, you want to come?
Yeah, but having said all of that, and we are all in general agreement with it, we must also look at the bigger picture because my take on this is that there are hidden hands behind this agenda as well that's at play. It's not just as simple as, you know, just getting children to eat correctly and all of that. Remember, there are certain organizations and companies that do not make money out of good health.
Yeah, right.
And they're the controllers of a lot of what happens on this earth. And their agenda is to make people as sick as possible and to keep people as sick as possible. Okay? They have no empathy or anything with anyone. And they're not going to be pushing good health or good nutrition. In actual fact, look at some of the companies around the world that are poisoning the food quite deliberately. Yeah. So when you factor all of this in, it really is a major battle that has to be fought. The question is, do most of us know that there's a battle going on? Yeah, because a lot of people are still walking around like ostriches with their head in the sand. And if you talk to people about some of the things that are happening in this world that are extremely detrimental to human life, they will say, oh, you know, that's a theory. You know, you're cuckoo or you're different or you're weird. But they just have to open their eyes a little bit and they can see that there's obviously a plan, an agenda at play to keep people ill. And where better to start than the young children, because they're the parents of tomorrow. Right. If they're hooked on this junk, remember it's not food, okay? The definition of food is that food is nourishing, and this junk is not nourishing by any stretch of the imagination. So if they can continue pushing this junk and get the younger people hooked, they're going to be the parents of tomorrow, if there's a tomorrow, okay? So they will be treating their children the same way that they were brought up. Also to remember that when a young woman is expecting a child, and she is eating junk, that child is then born with a predisposition to junk.
Right.
Okay, so she's shaping that child's future by what she eats and how she behaves. Yep. So all of that has to be factored in. It is an uphill task. There are forces at play that are trying to correct what is happening, but it may not happen in one generation.
Mm. Okay then. All right. Carmen, do you want to respond? Because I'm just conscious because we got someone phoning very in a few minutes time. So you want to respond and then
Well, just a carry on from all of tonight, and to really finish. This is why we really need to be looking at why we need to be supplementing in our diet, and it is recognised by by bodies, medical bodies, that supplementation is a necessity. But then that's almost another category in itself when we understand why supplementation is a necessity, because there are documents written by British medical journals, American medical journals, documents that are out there and accessible to the public, highlighting is supplementation a necessity, and it certainly is, because there are documents actually saying that if you do not supplement your diet, and these are articles that were written almost 20 years ago, that saying if you do not supplement your diet today of 20 years ago, you're guaranteed to get a chronic degenerative disease later in life. So they said this 20 years ago. So this goes back to that generation, and we're already looking at, because we're talking about these, we say our children and these young we're referring to teenagers. Well, hang on, that's those teenagers of what they were saying 20 years ago who are now teenagers of today. So we need to be looking at that, but we certainly need to engage with the younger audience, with the young, those under 21, those under 19 and under, to really let them understand more.
Can I ask you a question?
How to eat right, make choices on what to eat and why they're eating that. You need to let them know why is this good for me? Why do I need to eat my greens? Why? What's in it? What's in it? And if they see you doing it, they'll do as I do, not do as I say. Do as I do. So if we're doing it, we need to be leading by example in that respect. But certainly, for me, my passion is to engage with the teenagers, the youngsters, and getting more engaged in sports. Because in sports in particular, they are giving them these fizzy drinks. They are giving them these, these red drinks that make them turn into charging balls on the pitch and things like that, or on the court. And
Can I ask you a question,
off
Carmen?
they have a low, and then they maybe take something synthetic to
Hi, can you hear me?
give them
Hello?
a high again.
Jumping.
Yeah?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, great. Okay, I was going to ask you a question. Have you been able to bring forward this idea to schools and the curriculums? Because you mentioned that it should be actually something that is taught in the curriculums, and I'm going to ask you that same question, sir. Is there some sort of way that we can actually get them to include this kind of thing in the curriculum? Have you tried, and what sort of successes have you had?
Me? Questions at me?
Yeah, question to you.
The question is at me. I am doing it now. This is something I am actively focused on doing for this year. Have I tried? I've been working
in school
with a lot
curriculum. Have you contacted the schools and said, listen, this should be in the curriculum? What sort of process is it about getting it on the curriculum? Have you looked at it? How can we as listeners say, okay, this sounds good. How can we convince our schools that this should be something that's part of the teaching on every day? What's the process? Have you tried? Is there any successes?
I have. The process for me was earlier on at the start of this year already. About a couple of weeks ago, I was at Haringey Council annual sports strategy event, and from there I actually connected with a couple of people that work within the Public Health for England, a couple of schools within Haringey, and they looked at within Haringey a more affluent parts of Haringey, i.e. like your Highgate, your Crouch End parts of Haringey, versus other parts of Haringey that are less healthy than other parts, less affluent parts of Haringey that are still Haringey, but how they've noticed the health, the life expectancy in one part of Haringey is greater than other parts of Haringey, even though it's all still Haringey. So there are a couple of schools heads, PE heads of sports that I've connected with, and my intention, they're very keen for me to go in there. So far, for this year, I've already started that momentum of doing that, and that's why even now being on the radio is just.
So it sounds like you have some sort of curriculum or some sort of lesson plan that you have in mind that you can deliver, and maybe us as parents. Give us your details so that maybe we can be, tormenting our schools and saying, hey, look, this lady Carmen, she can be telling us about certain facts about nutrition that you're not getting in the curriculum, and we want her in.
Yeah, I am doing that. And once I've got more dates and timelines, when I've got that more accurate, then I will certainly speak again with Dougie, speak with yourself, and you'll hear more. So keep listening to the station. That's what I would certainly say.
Okay then.
Just keep in touch and you'll get it.
All right.
Yeah.
Carmen, give thanks.
Yeah.
Because I'm just conscious about time still.
Thank
and your contribution is very valid, you know what I mean? You're definitely one of the ambassador out there. And we, you're like a diamond. So, we're going to work as a team, try to push, the health and out there. And, as you know, it is an uphill battle. But, I mean, we're going to get it done. You know what I mean? And we're glad to have people like you, who's on our side, and we're working towards that,
Welcome. Welcome.
Okay, then, my sister. Give thanks again, yeah?
All right. You're welcome. Good. Have a good evening. Healthy regards, and I'll connect with you again soon.
No problem.
All right. Thank
Very
you.
soon. All right. Thank you again.
All right.
All right.
You're welcome. Good night. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, then. So that was a beautiful sister, Carmen, and you can see that she's very versed when it comes to everything about health. I know Vasco's done tremendous research in that particular area as well. In fact, Vasco studied at least 3-4 hours a day on different kind of topics and does a lot of research. So this man here knows what he's talking about. Okay then, we're expecting a call at 9, but what I'm gonna do, I'm going to delay that because I want Vasco's in the house and a Vasco event coming up soon. And where's this Sunday? So Vasco, if you don't mind, Vasco, let people know about the event I will be speaking about, and then we're gonna reason about some of the stuff you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before Sunday, of course, this Saturday, I'm going to be invested at remote community college, and I'll be taking part in a health seminar. There'll be about 4 speakers, and my topic for the health seminar is vibrations with regard to health.
Vibrations, you say?
Vibrations, yes.
Okay.
You seem a little bit surprised by that, Patrick.
No, just interested to see where you're going.
Where we're going, right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going this way. Everything in the universe vibrates, but at different frequencies. Every organ in the body vibrates. Even the food we eat vibrate at different frequencies. And the thing about it is that we should be eating high vibrational foods. Okay? Back to your green stuff, your cucumbers, your melons, certain herbs as well, turmeric and cloves and all of those, what Carmen referred to as essential foods, because in health terms, when something is described as essential, it means that your body doesn't produce it naturally, so you have to get it from your food. Okay? That's what I'm going to be talking about, vibration. The whole universe vibrates, okay? And I'm looking at my presentation from that perspective. Then on Sunday, I'll be at the Chestnut Center in St. Anne's Road, and my topic there is going to be the Third World War, a battle for humanity. Because we are in a war. There are a lot of people who don't understand that since 9/11, the Third World War started. That's when it started. And although there are not bombs and missiles and everything flying all over the place, every aspect of a war has been engaged. That's where we're at. The propaganda, the food, everything is in place and has been, have been happening since 9/11. And there's still some people walking around, as I said earlier, like ostriches with their heads buried in the sand, and they're still thinking it's a theory. Well, they better wake up and wake up quickly. Yeah, because we not only have a physical war going on, but should I say a multi-dimensional war? Okay, it's financial, it's ecological, and more important, it is a spiritual war. Good versus evil. Okay, and we'd better get on board, because in this particular war, you can't sit on the fence, because your very existence is threatened by this war. So you cannot sit on the fence. You're either on the side of good, who are trying to save the planet and save humanity, or you're on the side of evil. Okay? You know there's a saying, all that is needed for evil to for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing.
To none.
Right?
Okay.
But this is now, here we're saying to all good people, it's time to step up.
Time to step up.
You know,
Yeah.
do something.
Okay, we've got someone on the live call in. Sorry, Vess. Greetings.
Yeah, Dougie, Clive on.
Yeah, where's that, Clive?
Yeah, I'm kind of just get the last 2 minutes on it, you know, so I just a peep and see what I'm going.
Yeah, people see what I'm going, all right.
We just catch a little bit on the nutrition, which obviously, you know, let me say you are what you eat.
See.
You understand? And anything artificial is the same as an illusion and similar to images.
Yeah.
You understand? And, you know, like how I see nowadays, I wonder if these kids that we, in a sense, address them tonight, if they're our children. You know, but also I heard, I think, Brother Vasco in there, and he mentioned about the bigger picture. And for that, I'm going to ask yourselves as well as the listeners as to if you ever wonder why it is we don't have any supermarket of our own.
All right.
You know, that we're able to feed ourselves.
See. All right.
Yeah, so
You want to ask Vasco the question there? Why we don't have a supermarket?
Yeah, well, I think Vasco himself knows, but the public out there also should know generally that if we want anything, we tend to have to go to the Asians or the Europeans or everybody else except for our own. You know, and it brings me back to a time some years back when I went in the Edmonton Green Market and I was going to buy a piece of yam and I asked the man was to cut it. And him saying, don't do that. You understand? And you know, like we make judgment but with our eyes. You know, so if you cut it, you will see if it's good or it's not good.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But the way things are packaged now, everything is artificial. You see? And we suffer the consequence of that. And we see that in our youngsters who are in no doubt our future, them being destroyed. And it's a situation which is also, say, spiritual, you know, because we worship to a certain extent images, which is akin to illusions, you know, so we're lost. And it says it takes a village to raise a child, yeah, and we don't live in a village, yeah, because we're more accustomed to greeting one another. So it's like we're all aliens amongst one another. You know, times of back we used to say morning, how they do. I just get the last 2 minutes.
All right, hold on, we lose you a little bit. But Vasco, you want to respond to what's been said?
No, he's spot on. You know, we seem to have lost the plot, so to speak. We no longer know who we are, right? And of course, in Western societies, we are eating what is known as the standard American diet, SAD. Yeah, that's very sad indeed.
Yeah.
And the standard American diet, the evidence shows that wherever that goes, disease follows. Okay. And I was a little bit surprised and disappointed myself when I came across a report that shows that Africans now are on the motherland in Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa. Up to about 50, 60 years ago, they didn't know what diabetes was. But now the place is rampant with diabetes.
Where's that? On the continent?
In Africa.
In Africa, okay then.
Kenya, Uganda,
yeah.
South Africa, Mozambique. Diabetes is now rampant. That's because they've introduced what is known as the standard American diet.
Right.
McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and all that crap that people are putting into their bodies.
Yeah.
Okay? Which, as he rightly said, is non-food or artificial stuff. your body doesn't recognize it as food. So instead of alkalizing the body and making it healthy, it is making the body acidic, threatening your immune system and generating disease. Okay? So, although there's a wind of change blowing, it's going to take some time for the effects of that wind to be felt right through the generations.
Yeah, and that to a certain extent is a point I'm making. You see, we as original people, we're connected to nature. You know, there's a season, there's a time for everything. So there's a yam season, there's a mango season, yeah? But when you're there in a foreign, it's like it's just one season. The choice is done totally to you. So whatever you crave for, that's what you gravitate towards. And then you end up short circuit because nature tells you too much of anything is not good for you. You see what I'm saying? So we've lost the natural connection, which is that balance as well as counterbalance.
All right.
Yeah, it's
You see what I'm saying? So it's a simple thing. And it's the same even with our social makeup and our well-being. You know, as much as we don't communicate with each other. So like I said a little bit before, we don't greet with one another. We don't say howdy, we don't say hello. So we look on each other now as alien. Yeah? So even though we need the discipline rightly because as when is it Prince Farai who said discipline and manners, heavy manners and things like that. Yeah. The discipline is needed. Yeah, but in society as it is now, when we take martial arts as an example, it's pointless you go to a person with your art now in a way of self-defense and him draw a knife or worse, a gun. You understand? So the power is in the hand of the oppressor then. You understand? And that's why Western society always want to have superior weapons.
Can I just interject there and just say that there's two things you said. There's a season, you said. Now, there's a gentleman I just mentioned earlier on, Sifu Kofi, who's introduced indigenous Wing Chun, and in what he's doing seminars and talks about how to get health benefits from the martial arts. And this is exactly what he's saying, that we operate on a season type basis. And when we operate on a season type basis, there are certain things we can do physically to help us holistically improve within that time period. And so in that sense, he's out there actually giving that message from a view of colour. And you can go to his seminars now and you can go and learn that. And the other thing is, you mentioned about learning martial arts. Martial arts, as I said earlier on, being seen as only something you do in the physical. But you go to martial arts for more than just the physical. You also go for the spiritual and for the mental and to learn self. So if you're going to say to yourself, well, I'm going there to make sure that if someone put a gun on me or a knife, I'm going to be able to do so, you're misinterpreting why martial arts was created in the first place. And I think that's what we should actually get out there. That martial arts wasn't just created for self-defense. It was created for a self-edification, for you to learn to master self.
Master yourself. Okay then.
Did they get that, sir?
Yeah, well, I grasp that, but obviously you need to be in an environment where that discipline is respected. Yeah, because the Western powers that be, they put in their counteraction. Yeah, that dismiss the discipline and then comes with the power of mass destruction. Because it doesn't necessarily target the individual now, it kills everything within the environment.
That's what I was talking
you know,
about
so the art form is then lost. If you get my meaning.
That's what I was talking about earlier when I said that discipline begins, in the home and the school. And what is patently obvious now is that discipline has broken down, and there has been, over the past several generations, a deliberate attempt to destroy the family. And do you know that in 1950, the black family in the United States of America was the model that everybody looked up to?
Okay, in the 50s, I didn't know
In
that.
1950s.
Okay then.
And then a plan, a deliberate plan was actually put into place to destroy the black family. Okay? And we are now experiencing that. I mean, it's been exported outside of America as well. And right here in the UK, you know, that is part of the plan.
I have to agree. I remember in the 1990s there was this thing that was going around that black men are always having babies all over the place, and that we never look after our babies. And I thought to myself, how long would it take for me to take 100 pictures of black men with their child just in North London? Do you know how long it took me? It took me 6 days. 6 days. And I thought to myself, if we believe the narrative that's out there, then we're going to be the narrative. And I think a lot of what this gentleman's saying on the radio is absolutely right about what they're trying to do. But there are answers. Because we are a people who recycle. We can find answers, and we should have faith in that.
Of course there are answers. The problem, however, is we are going through a period of disunity. We're not a collective. We don't work together. You know, look at other cultures. Even if it's a facade, they still have this togetherness, and they work as a cohesive unit. But to a large extent, in our communities, we work as individuals, and we're not part of a collective, okay? And even when we run seminars and meetings and invite people to come to health talks and other talks, the flimsiest of excuses for not coming.
Eternity's love.
You know, let me tell you one such flimsy excuse. I was running a seminar at Streatham Library in Southwest London, and some friends of mine, and I use the term loosely, live a mile away and they drive. And I said to them, okay, I'm having this seminar. It begins at 4 o'clock on Sunday. Look forward to seeing you there. What? Sunday at 4 o'clock? That's the time we are sitting down to our rice and peas and oxtail. And you know what I said? I said, if you cannot give up one Sunday to come and hear something that's going to benefit you, if you cannot give up one Sunday for somebody you consider to be a friend, then you're no longer friends of mine. And I cut them off straight away. Yeah, and we've got to get out of this you know, negative attitude. We've got to be more assertive. We've got to be more proactive. We've got to see the bigger picture, which a lot of us are not seeing. Some of us are waking up, but there are others, you know, who, whenever you say something different or something that doesn't sit well with what they believe, you're the threat to them. Or we are comfortable in our ignorance. Why are you trying to educate us? That's
True.
But they don't understand
Yeah, well,
we're living in very dangerous times.
Yeah, well, that is the illusion, I would say then, that that leaves them with the impression that they're okay. So people tend to think if they're okay, then it's okay for everybody. You know, so with distance, or we detach ourselves. Yeah, when we were in great need, we were one. You know, but individuals now who have supposedly made it, yeah, they then forget as to where they're coming from. Yeah, so as much as we know it as a fact that it takes a village to raise a child, yeah, we no longer live as we are as a village. Yeah, because we're embracing other people's values. Yeah, when we do know that we are original, we are unique. Unique in the sense that our nature governs us. So anything that we stray outside and need artificial things, it impacts on us to our own destruction, and that is in faith, yeah, in our nutrition, and everything to do with our social well-being. So as much as we identify certain things amongst ourselves, the simplest solution for us in this time is just to be able to go down the road and greet one another. It doesn't take money, it don't take weapon. If we just add the willpower to this, boy, brother, where going, the way it used to be. You know, myself growing up in a community home, it was an expectation that as I walk, going to school, even now in a house up on top of the hillside, you shout, morning, how they do, you know, whether anybody is there or not. You know, in our case, if there was a response, we knew that someone was in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then if there's no response now, we sometimes see it as an opportunity to go and pick fruits.
Mm.
You understand? So it's something that we've allowed ourselves living in a foreign land, within a strange culture, that we've lost those principles, those values. So now you can say we now have no manners, no respect for each other. You know, and you'll see it even amongst ourselves. We're walking down the street with our children and we don't acknowledge one another.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So therefore, our kids grow up dissing one another. You know, I think...
That's an extremely valid point, because I like the concept of speaking to each other and greeting each other. Because when we do that, we raise our vibrations and we raise the other person's vibrations as well. Let me take that a little bit deeper, okay? Let me take that a little bit deeper. The human body is 80% water, okay? It's been scientifically proven that water has memory, and if you speak kindly to water, you alter the molecules and the crystals in the water. So when you speak ill-manneredly to somebody, you're actually affecting the water in that person's body in a negative way. If every organ depends on water for its health, you're actually injecting ill health into that person when you speak negatively to them, but also in yourself. When you go down the road and you speak to somebody, morning ma'am, or morning, or hello, how are you, okay? That's a positive vibration that you're putting out. And remember, the universe vibrates different frequencies. You're putting out a positive vibration which has a positive impact on that person's health and well-being.
Yeah, and let me come back on that again, because, you know, I myself have done fostering for a number of years. And I use that as a tool amongst the youngsters that I had fostered. Because when I'm out on the street with them, the amount of people that they see me talking with, greeting, it leaves an impression on them. You know? So when I get them back home, I just remind them as to who they had seen me greeting. You know? So that for us within our community is like CCTV. You see what I'm saying? So they're now mindful as they walk and they conduct themselves out in society, that anybody of our, say, culture, or even Europeans, because obviously, you know, we live in a culture where we've got diverse friends, or associate, whichever way we want to put it. You understand? But it leaves a mark on their mindset, yeah, that there's eyes that can give some account as to what they've been doing. Yeah? Now, the way it is for us, unfortunately, is like the youth, they view us very much like the three wise monkeys. Yeah, because they've got us at a state now where we're fed up with them to the extent that we hear no evil, we see no evil, and we not say nothing. Yeah, so the power is now in the hands of the youths. Yeah, because we've now become somewhat cowards. Yeah, in order to deal with the present situation. It's like we say we can't bother with them because they might stab we, they might shoot we, and things like that. You know. So yeah, I'd like to just leave you the thought, the simple thing to a certain extent, as an immediate solution. It not take no money. It's just a willpower to be able to just go to a road and see a fellow kind. I say morning, evening, afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Most of we are afraid to do that for the simple fact that we think we will lose face because a whole heap of people now got response and answer you back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But when death come and knock on them door now, they might expect you now to go rally, to go protest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you understand? So we are allowing the powers to be in the hands of others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we just need to take it back. Yeah, because we are the ones who is one with nature. You know, and I think as we touched on before, our God is a very jealous God. Yeah, so when we don't worship in the wrong way to the wrong people, yeah, put them on a pedestal, you know, in which case they're supposed to be underneath our feet being trampled upon because they don't know where they're going because they're not coming from anywhere other than from we because we are original. You know, and that's where we need to rest back that power. But, you know, we're in a new moon and a new time now. You know what I'm saying? So is a blessing.
Yeah. All right.
You understand? It's a blessing.
All right. Then. Well, look here. I'm just conscious of time. I'm expecting a call still. See?
Yeah, well, respect to the brothers and the sisters comment earlier, you know. So I'll just put in a little one piece.
I will be saying hello to everybody I see now. Definitely. Thanks for that.
That was a great contribution.
Yeah, it's as simple as.
Great.
Because word is power.
Yeah,
you know?
word is power, man. All right, then.
Yeah. All right. Respect, yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Give
Bless
thanks.
it.
Give
Bless
thanks.
it.
All right, then. Okay, then. So that's Brother Clive make a very powerful contribution there. And very powerful. Patrick, read out that live link out for me. Can you see it right there? Sorry.
All right.
Reach.
So you want me to read the telephone number there?
Yeah.
It's 07944 31366. That's 07944 31366.
Okay, then we got half an hour. About half an hour left. So I know we're expecting a call from Kinsu. So he's gonna be phoning as well. We're talking about a book around health and the whole thing about in a second. So hopefully he'll phone in. While we still got Vasco here, and you know Vasco's a very, as I said, very versed man in terms of what he knows, because I know Vasco really through the presentation of the prostate cancer. He's done several presentations with us, Find Your Voice, talking about prostate cancer. But also he does several presentations on different subject matter. Another one I went to is above as is below.
As above, so below.
So below.
Yeah.
And in fact, I looked at some notes where you were speaking about that. And I was looking at some notes in fact, Vasco. And you know what I was very interested? The whole thing about astrology and the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, that just blew me. Whenever you talk about that.
You see, to my mind, and from what I've read and studied, the Bible is astrology from Genesis to Revelation. Okay? And it tells you that in the Bible itself. It tells you that the planets are up there as signs. And right to the Bible it tells you that. But my issue with, let me say, religion is that they're encouraging people to look for an external savior. Yeah? And the Bible, if you want, and all religious books, all religious scripts predating the Bible, emphasize the fact that the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of the Creator, whichever term we want to use, lies within us. So we shouldn't be looking for an external savior. We have to look within to save ourselves. And that's where meditation, comes in, because if our bodies are temples, then we have to keep our temples in pristine condition.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I was reading something recently, and I had to smile to myself when I read it. A grandfather and a 9-year-old grandson are walking up a hill, and the little boy is lagging behind the granddad, okay? And the granddad looks around and said, are you okay? You look a bit tired. The little boy replied, Granddad, my body is tired, but I am not. What does that tell you? He says, my body is tired, but I am not. Now, in that simple statement, an innocent statement, he is realizing and recognizing that his body is not the essence of who he really is.
Right.
There's an inner being. There's something in there. The real boy is not the one who's walking, who's tired. Yes, there's a me in here. And this is where I think certain pastors and religious people should be focusing, because to my mind, they are encouraging people to look for this external savior. And if I want to take that a little bit deeper and to the next degree, the way things are structured, that external savior is not going to be somebody of our same race. It's going to be a white person.
Okay.
Let's cut straight to the chase on that one. Yeah? So we will always, if we follow this paradigm, we will always be looking for a white external savior to save us from our plight. When in actual fact, what in actual fact that would be then is that we are looking for the oppressor to save us. Ain't gonna work. We have to look to ourselves. Yes, we have to meditate. We have to do everything that's possible, radiate love and affection towards each other, greet each other, as Clyde said, when we see each other on the street, which is something I do, not every time, but quite often. Some people respond, others don't. Doesn't bother me if they don't reply. Yeah? Their issue, not mine. Okay, I know why I'm doing it. It raises my my vibration, and of course, if your vibration is raised by virtue of your lifestyle and your diet, by eating certain foods and not eating, junk. If your vibration is raised, then you get closer to what can be described as the source.
That's the source. Okay then.
Yep.
All right then. So we have Vasco inside the host, as I said before, very very knowledgeable. Vasco, I'm going to ask you again to let people know about the event you're doing over the weekend. Yeah, and the address and also your website as well. And then what I'm going to do is try and get Kinsu to do a phone in as well, talk about his book on health. So let people know about your.
Okay. Well, I'm doing one on Saturday in Leicester, as I said before. That's at the Mott Community College in Maidstone Road. That runs from 12 to 6. Lots of speakers there, health seminar. And there's a possibility of getting a free bioscan. Okay? That's where we're diagnosing and treating is going. Looking at the vibrational electrical part of the body. Then on Sunday, I'm at the Chestnut Community Center in St. Anne's Road in Tottenham N15, and I'll be presenting there on the Third World War and a battle for humanity. Right? And that, well, let me say I presented it last Sunday in Brixton, and it went down a treat. People understood what is, to some degree, what is happening in the world, because we will never understand 100%. A lot of it is, should I say, smoke screens and mirrors, and what we think is happening sometimes is not necessarily happening. Sometimes we perceive somebody as the bad guy when that person is a good guy. Yep. But we're under attack from all aspects, especially we as black people. And we, we have vaccinations, we have all these diseases that are man-made to try and wipe out blacks. We have so many different attacks from all different angles, and we've got to be on guard. We've got to look after ourselves.
Absolutely.
Mentally, physically, in every regard.
And who will be speaking this Sunday coming?
Well, I know that Galactic Clyde is there. I was with him earlier tonight. He will be one of the speakers. I suspect that
Seven's going to be there?
Seven will be there as well.
Okay, fine.
I don't know that for sure, but she was at the last one last Sunday.
Okay, yeah.
And she has a very fascinating story,
story,
as you know. And Galactic Clyde, of course, is Galactic Clyde. But on this question of religion and the Bible, we are living in very dangerous but exciting times, in the sense that, we've been talking about what has been hidden will come to light, the awakening. Yeah? And I'm not going to try and give away everything that I'm going to be speaking about on Sunday, but I wish a lot of people would come and just listen, because it is very relevant. It is today what's happening. And if I look at it from Revelation, or the awakening, as some people call it, astrologically, there are two things that are happening quite seriously. Our sun is in a binary orbit with a star called Sirius. Okay? And what it shows is that the further away Sirius is from our sun, the same way the moon has an effect on life here on Earth with regard to the tides, or when farmers should plant and all of that.
Right.
Every single planet has an effect on us.
Right.
Okay? But, people feature mainly on the sun and the moon. But we are in this binary with this star called Sirius, which the Dogons have been talking about for generations, donkey's years. Okay? The evidence shows that the further away Sirius is from our sun, the more we degenerate into bad behavior, let's put it that way, decadence and stuff like that. And the closer Sirius comes to our sun, human behavior then becomes more empathetic and loving, yes, and spiritual. So on the 21st of December 2012, when our sun crossed what is known as the great plane, the great galactic plane, like similar to the equator that we talk about on Earth, that ushered in the age of Aquarius. And the age of Pisces, under which we were ruled for the last 2,000 years, is coming to an end. Okay? But it doesn't just switch on and off like an electric light. You with me? So we are still experiencing the tail end of Pisces, but the age of Aquarius
is coming in.
It's coming in.
It's coming in, okay.
It's going to, according to the experts, it's likely to last for about 4,000 years.
Okay. Then.
But it is also generational, in the sense that some of us who are of a certain age may not see the full impact of it. So that's one aspect of it, okay? The other aspect of it is that the planet Uranus is actually coming into play as well, very powerfully. If you understand the story of Uranus, then you'll see how important this is. I'm going to give this story from a Greek perspective, so I don't know it fully from an Egyptian or Kemetic perspective. I can't remember the names. But let me give it from a Greek perspective, okay? Uranus was originally the son of heaven, the S-U-N of heaven.
The son of heaven, yeah?
Yeah, the S-U-N, not the S-O-N.
Okay.
S-O-N is a mistake. It is S-U-N.
S-U-N, yeah.
Right, the son of heaven, okay? And Uranus was married to Gaia, which represents the earth. Gaia is the earth. And they had some children. One of those children happened to be Saturn, or Satan, Remember, everything is duality, yes?
Duality,
right.
yeah.
The other side of the coin. Right? So Saturn didn't like the marriage between Uranus and Gaia, so he got a sickle, which represents time, and castrated Uranus and took Uranus's place in the heavens. Okay? Well, along comes Venus, the goddess of love, right?
Yes, yeah.
And she worked in tandem with the Cyclops. Remember the Cyclops? The single eye, the big eye in the middle of the forehead?
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Does that tell you something? We have love, yes?
Hate.
And we have the pineal gland, the single eye.
Oh, pineal gland was in the.
Yeah, the single eye. That's what that Cyclops, that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's what it represents. So when you radiate love, and you practice good habits, then that's right. The pineal gland vibrates, and we were talking about vibration earlier, at the correct frequency, the frequency that the Earth vibrates at, which is 432 hertz. Okay? So Uranus is now coming back, and Uranus is the planet of disruption, the planet that doesn't like the status quo, the planet of spirituality, the planet that controls Aquarius, the planet of individual freedom, right? In other words, another name for Uranus is what the Bible would call Jesus.
Okay then.
And he's returning. So this is what religious people would term the revelation. But there is also a mistake. In 1881, some scholars looked at this work that was translated from the Greek and from the Hebrew, and they said a mistake was made, because when you talk to religious people, Jesus is always coming. He never arrives. He's always coming, right? But these scholars said in 1881 that whoever translated it made a mistake, and the word did not mean coming. It meant presence. It's already here. The concept of Jesus is already here in the age of Aquarius, ushered in by Uranus. And that's what's happening now astrologically. And that's why you see a lot of earthquakes and volcanoes and hurricanes and upheavals. That's why you see also a lot of individual freedom, despite the fact that the media isn't putting it out there. There's so many things happening behind the scenes, positive things, I must say, although there's a lot of negative still going on. But there's a lot of there are lots of positive things happening behind the scenes that are not reported in the media. Yeah, because the media is controlled by those who don't want the good to happen, to be seen to be happening on this earth.
Absolutely. Okay, then we got exactly about less than 50 minutes, and then we're expecting a call from Kinsu. Might be a bit too late for him to phone in now. Kinsu, if you're up, you can phone in. Feel free to phone in. Feel free. Inside the house, we do have Vasco inside the house, and as I said before, Vasco, there's a lot of stuff around health, around prostate cancer,
some black history,
done stuff on diabetes
and current events,
you know.
Yeah.
So okay,
that what you eat causes health or disease. Let me tell you how this happened to me. Mary and I met in, it was either August or September of 1971. We met in an operating room. She had a mask on. All I saw was her eyes. But I fell in love. It took me 3 weeks to get a date. Yeah. But once I took her out, she never left. Yeah. Well, anyway, we got together. It was about August or September of 1971, and towards the end of 1971, maybe December or so, I was a senior medical student. I was going to all these lectures at noon where the the real doctors would talk about diseases, chronic diseases, and they talk about the signs and symptoms of diseases and how there's probably a gene related to them, and we can give this drug to help the signs or symptoms. But I felt helpless as a medical doctor because they never taught me about how to prevent chronic disease like arthritis or cancer or heart disease, and they certainly never taught me how to treat it. And then at this one noontime conference appeared a presenter. I had no idea who he was, but he changed my life. His name was Dr. Dennis Burkitt. He was a surgeon. He was trained in Edinburgh, Scotland. And after his training as a surgeon, he left with Walker, Alex Walker, and Clive, and a few of his other buddies, and they went to Uganda, Africa, to help people in Uganda, Africa. And he stayed there for 17 years and became the head of Ministries of Health of Uganda. Dr. Burkitt oversaw 1,000 hospitals and took care of, indirectly and directly, 10 million people over 17 years. And Dr. Burkitt came to that noontime conference, and he stood up there in front of the audience, and I was sitting there, and he was only talking to me. He stood up there and he said, in my 17 years in Uganda as the head of Ministries of Health, 1,000 hospitals, 10 million people, he said, I never saw a case of hemorrhoids. I never saw diverticulosis, diverticulitis. I never saw obesity. I saw one case of gallstones. I never saw colon cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis. I saw one heart attack, and that was in a judge who trained in London and came back to Uganda and had a heart attack. He told me that. I was so excited. And he told me it was because of fiber. It was because of the fiber they ate. That was...
Yes, just playing the recording, talking about the whole thing about health, cancer, and it's something we keep drumming every single week, all the time. And as I said before, Vasco is known, well, I can know Vasco really to the whole thing about the prostate cancer, and etc. But Vasco, it'd be wise just to let people know, how do you get involved with the whole thing about prostate cancer? Because that's where most people, well, I get to know it from, really, and that's where I do things along Black history and stuff. How did that come about?
Well, back in round about 1982, 83.
82?
1982, 83, yeah. Two of my very good acquaintances died of prostate cancer. When I was growing up back in the Caribbean, I used to hear the men in the village talk about looking after the man. You have to look after the man. But they couldn't progress it beyond that to enlighten anybody as to what this man that they had to look after was. I had an experience as well where I had to go and have a medical, full medical. And as a result of that, I had, that was my first prostate examination. And the doctor in Oxford Street, explained to me what he was doing. And that was when the penny dropped. So this is what these men back home were talking about when they say you have to look after the man. They were referring to the prostate gland. Okay? And then I heard there was an organization in East London called the Association for Prostate Awareness. And I thought, right, I'm going to join this organization. I'm still a member of it. And we've been promoting prostate awareness ever since. And I do get a lot of people phoning me up with questions about their prostate. And in actual fact, before I came here tonight, I stopped and spoke with an older gentleman about his prostate as well. And I just give advice and information. Well, what is happening with me personally is that I have now I used to have an office in Southeast London, Sydenham, where I used to operate from. That building has now been sold. But by the end of this month, hopefully, I will have a super office in Peckham Indoor Market.
You have an office down there, yeah?
In Peckham Rye, yes,
Okay.
the indoor market, right outside Peckham Rye, overground train station.
Okay.
And that is courtesy of a friend of mine called Twin at Royal Maroon Herbs.
Okay.
Okay. And I've also invested in some equipment. You know these bioscanners, bioresonance equipment that can actually read your whole body, detect where their energy weakness is and other things like that. I've invested in one of those as well. Haven't read every little nuance about it as yet because it's something that you have to master.
Right.
So within the next couple of weeks, I'll be into that, putting it all together, and then I'll be able to put people on the machine or the equipment and scan their bodies. They'll be able to see it on my computer screen. But this one goes a little bit deeper than just scanning and saying there are energy blockages there. This one actually will send impulses, if you want to use that term, into the body and attempt to put those organs back at the correct frequencies, because we're talking about every organ vibrating at a different frequency. Well, the same way you can go to a surgery and they can take 2 vials of blood and send that blood away and tell you what your thyroid gland is doing, how high your cholesterol is, what your kidneys are doing. Yes, they look at the biological part of it because each organ gives off a different biological marker, so to speak.
Okay.
So the same thing applies. Remember, we are bioelectrical people. So we look at the other side now, and that's where a lot of treatment and medicine is going. In a few years' time, believe it or not, they'll have a system where you can pick up your telephone at home, send certain frequencies down that telephone, yes, and cure practically any disease you have. That's where it's going. Remember Star Trek when they had this little gadget in the hand like a mobile phone and they read your whole body with it?
Right.
That's where, that's not, I think to some degree it's here. Okay, so that's where I'm going with this bit of equipment, and I'll be having a permanent surgery in Peckham Rhine Market.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to talk to me, my number is 0772 556 7262. I'll repeat that. 0772 556 7262.
Okay.
Okay.
And your website?
My website is blackhealth.co.uk.
Okay.
Blackhealth, one word, .co.uk. And you know what is ironic about this? I was talking about vibrations earlier, yeah? And every day I go into the back of the site to see how many people or how many hits I had on the site on that day. And on the 8th of this month, I looked today, but it was, the day wasn't finished. I don't know how many. But let me choose the 8th of this month. I had 106 hits on the site in that day. Okay, I usually get over 1,000 every month on it. But I had 106 on that day. Out of that 106, half of them, 50, were on one particular article. And that's an article I posted in June 2016.
Yeah?
June 2016. And the title of that article is The Vibrational Frequencies of Food and Disease. And remember, this site is seen all around the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Every single day I go in and I see those, I look at it. That one particular article, which is in the archives, has more hits.
What's the article called again?
The Vibrational Frequencies of Food and Disease.
Food and disease.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because food vibrates at certain frequencies, and when you eat certain foods, like meat, yes, that doesn't vibrate at all. It's dead.
It's dead, yeah.
Okay? And disease as well, because your brain vibrates at a certain frequency, yes, your lungs at a certain frequency, and guess what? Death begins at 52 megahertz. That's the process of death. But the actual death actually occurs when your body gets down to 25 megahertz. So if you're vibrating at less than 52 megahertz, yeah, then you're on your way to death. So you really got to eat high vibrational foods. Cucumbers, melons, celery, parsley, okras, sweet potatoes.
Talk about plant food and
That's right. That's right. And foods that grow in the sun. Yeah, in the hot sun.
Okay.
We should, and as people, as sun people, that's really what we should be eating.
Right.
Our sun food that our bodies evolved on. Yeah.
Right.
Your sweet potato and your okras.
Okay. And when are you going to be at the Mahat Center? You doing anything down there again?
End of February this time, because the end of January is here and they're doing some repairs there at the moment.
Okay.
So at the end of February, I'll be back on the once a month last Saturday presentations at the Mahat Center, 366 High Road, Tottenham.
Okay then. So we've got about 4 minutes left. Just waiting for the DJ will be coming in very soon. So, and again, I said we do have Vasco inside the house, and he will be at the Chestnut Community Center this Sunday coming. The African market starts from about, at least from about 2 o'clock, we get for at 1 o'clock, and the actual presentation will start about 3. Am I right?
About 3, yes.
About 3.
I suspect that my own presentation will probably begin round about 4:35 o'clock.
About 4. So, you know, the presentation will start from 3 o'clock. See? So, and there we have Vasco will be speaking. We have Sevens. Also, we do have Clyde will be speaking. Anybody else speaking, you know?
Not that I'm aware, because Auntie Jean hasn't sent out
the information.
Schedule yet.
See? So it's going to be a very busy Sunday. You know, Auntie Jean, you know, she does her thing. Very vibrant, you know, energized.
African market.
An African market. So people come there and shop and make the money circle around in the community. And we have a big Auntie Jean because she's been working very tirelessly and been on this, you know, on the journey for a little while, but consistency, I must confess. Also, there'll be African, there is some drumming there, and they'll be drumming for the young people, some classes with drumming and so forth.
Yeah.
That's coordinated by Prince.
And of course, the libation.
Libation, very important.
Yeah, very
libation,
important.
you know, etc. Okay, then. So at this point, yeah, I just want to say goodbye to everybody out there. Thank you for your ears, and I will leave the final word for our elder Vasco. Yes, Vasco.
I can't get used to being called an elder. Only yesterday I was 16, and now I'm an elder. Anyhow, I hope I see all of you good people at the seminar on Sunday. Don't miss it, please, because it's of paramount importance, and it has to do with our physical and spiritual future. Okay, there's a lot going on in the world, a lot of it detrimental, but there's some excellent things happening behind the scenes that the mainstream isn't reporting and talking about, and I will be highlighting some of those things.
Okay. All right, so give thanks to Vasco Stevens, our elder.
Is and how it grows. I want to get back to early detection. Let's just talk about colon cancer for a minute. We already talked about mammography at the introduction of H. Gilbert Welch. Let's just talk about colon cancer. There are various ways to screen. Remember, it's doctors going out to healthy people and looking at healthy people for disease and turning them into patients. There are various ways that you can do that. You can do it by checking the blood, or excuse me, checking the stool for blood in a couple of different ways. You can also check the stool for DNA. It's called a Cologuard test, and that checks for cancers type DNA that's found in polyps or colon cancer. You can also do various scope procedures. You can do a sigmoid procedure, which is like a 2-foot tube that's put up your bottom. Or you can do it with a 6-foot tube, which is called a colonoscopy, which can be put up your bottom. And you can do x-ray tests. We call them virtual colonoscopies. We used to do barium minims. So there are various ways that you can detect whether or not you have colon cancer. All right. I have recommended against colonoscopy, that 6-foot test, for a long time. Actually, August of 2010, I sent you all a newsletter. Well, interestingly, this year, the Canadian Task Force on Preventative Medicine told the Canadian citizens to stop getting colonoscopies. Yeah. You see what they say? They say, we recommend not using colonoscopy as a primary screening test for colorectal cancer. That's what the Canadian Preventative Task Force recommends. Why? Because it does more harm than good. I wrote you a big newsletter about this called Colonoscopy, a Gold Standard to Refuse. I sent it to you in 2010. But when I told people that, they do think about me a lot. They think, you're just being radical or crazy. Why would somebody not want to find out if they have cancer in the breast or prostate or colon? This is just stupid thinking, McDougall. Well, except for the fact that looking for all this disease does a tremendous amount of harm. Especially when we don't have effective ways to treat it. And how in the world could we possibly treat it when early detection is finding something that's 10 years old and already spread?